Okay, we might have made it. We might have actually made it, as with every live stream. Let me just share it over on the social media, because I was already putting the live stream. I mean, I was trying to do it before, and for some reason it came on as I was setting it up. Like everybody could see. Oh, sorry, I was looking down here. Everybody could see me like setting up the live stream and everything. I don't know if you guys could see me before. I was just like here with my glasses trying to set everything up. But anyway, sorry about that. Let me just share it over on the gram as it should be done. There you go. So everybody can see that we're live right now. If you want to join over on my YouTube channel. Let's add all the bits onto it while we wait for other people to join. Let's put all the bits up at the top and at the bottom. And meanwhile, if you want to share what you've done on your Sunday, what you've been watching, and then I'll tell you about a film I was watching. Oh, wow, a lot of comments already. I'll come in a second, just a moment. Let me just share all the things. Just a second. There you go. Oh, wow, that's a lot of comments. I see somebody, I just saw the letterbox question. A lot of you actually asked me if I have a letterbox account. For those who don't know, letterbox is basically a social media, you probably all know it, but sorry, for those who might not know it, letterbox is basically a social media platform on which you can review films and you can make like the watch list of films you want to watch and so on. I do have an account. It's just always my name, Debbie Sanna, but there's nothing on it. I think I might have reviewed maybe one film, but not even writing a review. I think I might have given stars for like Parasite or something. I can't even remember. I don't know why, but I've never really managed to get into it. Just the idea of sitting there and typing up the whole review. I don't know. I never really got into it that much. But yeah, but I do have an account. If anybody wants to find me on there, it's just always my my name and surname. Hi, ciao a tutti. Ciao Debbie, ma sei sarda, vero? Sì, per metà. Per metà sì, sono sarda. Ciao, più passa il tempo e più diventi bella, grazie. Ci parli in italiano? Ma dopo non capiscono tanti altri, sono più stranieri. What's your take on T2 Trainspotting? Ah, 'cause where's the book behind here? Oh, it's right at the top. I don't know if you can see it right at the top there. So as you all know, I really like Trainspotting. And 20 years after Trainspotting is from 1996, if I'm not mistaken. And 20 years later, so in 2016, if I'm not getting all my dates mixed up, they made the sequel based on the book T2 Trainspotting. The original title was Porno, but I think they decided to rework it because maybe it wouldn't have sold that well. And so the first Trainspotting film is like the classic one, and it's about a group of friends in Scotland who are going through drug addiction, and they're trying to get clean from their drug addiction. But obviously, this is very hard. It's not that easy. Yada yada yada. And at the end of the first film, they all split ways, and I'm not going to say anything spoilerish, but they not everything they. Some of the relationships don't finish in a great way. 20 years later, basically, they meet up again, and a lot of things have happened. And it's interesting, but I do think it was a very big fan service. So when I went to watch it, it was all about remembering the first movie rather than making a whole new story about what happened after. For example, one of the characters had been in jail. A few other ones had tried to become like really clean and healthy lifestyle, you know, working out and so on. Other ones are still kind of tied up in the same old habits. So it's really interesting, but I think they really did it just to reminisce the old movie. For example, even the famous "Choose Life" quote, basically in Trainspotting, the original film opens with this monologue by the main protagonist, who's portrayed by Ewan McGregor, and it's about choosing life, and it says, you know, choose furniture and choose like a decent job and choose to get all, you know, have the perfect lifestyle. And then he concludes it by saying, well, I choose not to choose this because I choose heroin. And that's the beginning of the story. And then 20 years later they bring back this same concept of, it was an obvious attempt to, you know, remember that. The first movie, still worth it though, still worth it. The book's right there. You can't see it, it's on the top shelf, but if I get that down, everything's just going to not work. I'm going to make everything crash here, so maybe it's not the best thing to do right now. Hola, hola Alfonso. Ciao Debbie, ho visto Watchmen, devo dire per le complessità dei miliani che yeah, I always say this at the beginning of my live stream, as we have a few people from Italy following, and they might feel more comfortable typing in Italian instead of typing in English. That's fine for me. Se volete scrivere in italiano, scrivete pure in italiano commento, but I will try to answer in English, just because it will be easier for everybody in the chat to understand. Most people from Italy, they don't mind if I reply in English, they just feel more comfortable writing Italian. So Edo says he watched Watchmen and he found it even better than Snyder Cut. I've often said that Watchmen is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, superhero movie. And I only watched it a few months ago, maybe maximum 1 year ago. And it's because I stupidly thought it was part of a much bigger saga. And I thought that to watch it, I had to know like everything about 15 previous films, you know, in a sort of like Marvel style. It's a DC film, but you know what I mean. Like 15 previous movies to understand what's going on. So I just always stupidly ignored it. I never decided to watch it. And then I did, and I was so surprised. Watchmen is by Zack Snyder, the director, you know, of the recent Justice League, the Snyder cut of the Justice League. And it's about a group of superheroes it's in this very gritty environment, and they discuss about a lot of ethical aspects of their powers. For example, there's this one of the characters that I like the most is Dr. Manhattan, and he's basically has the powers of a god. There's no other way of describing it. And he goes on all about this discussion about life and human consciousness, and it's very interesting. It is one of my favorite superhero movies, probably that and The Dark Knight, because because I'm a basic Nolan fan. Buonasera Debbie, buonasera Matteo. Hi Debbie, impromptu live stream. Yes, I decided I was here. I thought we can chat about some movies. Actually, before doing this, I was watching an Indian movie. I don't know if there's anybody from India following right now, because they're about five hours forwards from us, so from where I am now, so it's probably in the middle of the night right there. But I was watching a film, and I was filming myself while watching it because I wanted to do obviously I have problems with doing live streams. First of all, I'm not that good at doing them because of, you know, it's harder than doing a normal video. There's a lot that has to go into it. But if you want to show stuff on the screen, you have to have like this software, and I do have it, and it's all set up. And the problem is my internet, the connection at my house is so bad that if I even start just pulling up images, let alone like just still pics, I mean, let alone videos, it just starts lagging and crashing. There's no way I can get around this. I've tried this multiple times on YouTube. I've tried it on Twitch. There's no way of getting around it. So I'm never able to watch like these copyright free-ish videos or films, uh, because it just crashes. So I thought I could do one of these videos in which I actually film myself while I'm watching it. A lot of people enjoy that. So I was watching this Indian film. It's called 2.0, and it's a super action-packed superhero robot kind of thing. But I need to still figure out more logistics about that, because then, how to edit it and everything. But anyway, so I was here sitting in front of the camera. I thought, you know what, let's just go live and let's have a chat all together. I need to learn. Oh, I missed the chat. Where is it? I need to learn Italian. Hello, otherwise from Canada. I am sure there are many people in the chat from Italy who would be more than willing to chat in Italian. Di cosa parliamo? Of whatever you like. Di quello che volete. If you want to let me know what you've been watching. Too many movies doing that, nodding way too much to the OG movie. Oh, for Trainspotting. Yeah, it happened. What was it? Oh, with Coming to America. So the original Coming to America from the 80s. My family, everybody in my family, we love that movie. We've seen it so many times and we laugh every single time. I don't think there's been one time in which we've watched Coming to America we haven't cracked up laughing. It was like this big 80s film here in Italy. It's always shown at Christmas on TV as well as other times throughout the year. And it's basically the story of this African prince and his I can't remember who his I can't remember if it's a friend or a cousin. Anyway, this person, that his best friend, basically, let's call it like this, they go to America because he wants to experience basically he's a really rich prince in this African country where he's just spoiled, and even the women there don't want to be his wife. They kind of are just like servants to him. They don't come up with anything new. They don't come up with their own ideas, their own goals. They're just basically meant to be servants to him. So he decides to go to America, and he decides to live like the normal life as a normal person and work and find a girl and everything. And it's absolutely hilarious. So 20, where's it? Yeah, it's probably 30 nearly years later. In this new film, Coming to America, as in coming to number 2 America, the two guys go back to America because apparently there's a son, a long lost son over there. And it was absolutely atrocious. It was one of the worst movies I've seen up until now this year. I think it was a movie that had no sense to me. I was obviously excited about it because loving the first film, but it was absolutely terrible. And it's totally based on the first film. Like, in some points, they didn't even bother. They literally just slapped in like parts from the first film. There's nothing original. I think the most original thing was when there's a Pepsi ad right at the beginning of the film, but it's just obvious there's an ad. And I think that was the most realistic, or the thing they focused on the most was like the Pepsi ad at the beginning. That the rest of it was just terrible. So I wouldn't say that T2 Trainspotting is like that. At least it still had a solid plot, even if it was, trying to make you always remember the first movie. But Coming to America was just a waste of time, seriously. And the thing was, it was super, super advertised. I think still now, like a good 2 months later, because it came out around the middle of February, something like that. A good 2 months later, it's still super advertised over on Prime Video. So obviously, since movies like Borat 2 and that stuff, they have a lot more money going in the thing in the system. By the way, Prime Video, it didn't like Prime Video is really surprising me. A while back, I was actually considering like deleting my subscription, and in the end, I didn't, because it's really cheap, at least here in Italy. Compared to other subscription plans, it's like a fraction of what Netflix costs. And it includes obviously other services like the regular Amazon Prime. But back at the time, it didn't actually have that much good stuff. It was all just Netflix. So I considered deleting it, and then over the course of time, they just started adding more and more good stuff. And now I think they have a lot more cash rolling in with, Borat and everything. And now that the characters like Borat's daughter, the actress Maria Bakalova, is nominated for an Oscar, it's going to have even more people watching it. Let me see if I missed some comments. Hi Debbie, nice light setup. Is this the Snyder cut of your live? No, it isn't a good setup. Literally, my computer is on a pile of things, and if I move in any direction in this moment, everything will crash around. That's why I can't pick up anything from here. I wanted to pick up T2 Train Spotting, but everything will just crash. But yeah, thank you. First Train Spotting alone is a masterpiece. Yes, it was, and it was often credited, if we can say like this, along with A Clockwork Orange. Train Spotting and A Clockwork Orange were the two big films which made me fall in love with cinema in the way I am today. I used to always watch a lot of films, and I've always loved, enjoyed watching movies. But then when I was 16, I think it was like the same year, I watched Train Spotting at school, and then A Clockwork Orange. Sorry for those who have already heard this a million times, but like around April, May, because I remember it was spring, they showed us Train Spotting in school. And then that same summer, I was over in the UK at my grandparents' house, and they showed A Clockwork Orange on TV. And those two films, just something clicked that there are films and films, if you see what I mean. Because with my friends, we used to go to the cinema and we would pick, obviously, the big film that was coming out at the moment. Like, we wouldn't put much thought into it. We just would pick the big film that was coming out and that most people would enjoy. It would be Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever. We wouldn't start thinking about, sitting at home and looking up more niche movies. Although I'd seen quite a few, because I used to always pick out DVDs at the library. But it was that moment that something clicked about, films and films. And I just kind of made this promise to myself. It was a really silly promise, but I kind of promised that I was going to watch one film a day for as long as I could. And it kind of has been like that, because I do try to watch at least one movie a day. And it obviously doesn't happen every day, because there's, life and work and everything else in between. But there are the days when I watch like 2 or 3 films. And as you well know, during the lockdown last year here in Italy, I was watching like 5 or 6 films a day, which was getting pretty bad. I think that when I did that, what I watched this month, it was like 80 films, and even series. Because a film is, an hour and a half, 2, but like some series were like you can hear all the noises from the household. Some series are like 12 1-hour episodes. That's like 12 hours. So it was getting a bit bad. Sorry again for all the noise. Poi credo che sia l'unico film di supereroi che tratti la figura di Dio, perché il Dottor Manhattan alla fine è vera e propria divinità reincarnata. Yeah, Edo, I'm going to say it in English so that everybody else can understand. Edo was saying about that Watchmen covers the concept of God, because Dr. Manhattan is seen basically like God. And again, without spoilers, there is a beautiful sequence in Watchmen where basically you realize how powerful Dr. Manhattan is, and he leaves Earth, and he's thinking about Earth from somewhere else. And I don't know how to spoil this, but I don't know how to say this without spoiling. But in the Snyder Cut, so in Justice League, the new Justice League, there is a character in the Justice League in general. There's a character, Cyborg, portrayed by Ray Fisher. And before the film was released, Ray Fisher went to Twitter and he said that his character's powers were only rivaled by Dr. Manhattan. And everybody thought it was just, a joke or something like that, because nobody had actually realized how strong Cyborg was, right? And then in the Justice League, there is a sequence which I wouldn't say is the same, but it's similar. And I'm going to say anything more, but basically it makes you realize how strong he is. And I think that was, a reference to Dr. Manhattan. But yeah, Watchmen really is one of my favorite, if not my favorite superhero movie of all time, just because it's such a complete storyline. It takes these characters, which maybe you knew nothing about before, if you were like me that never followed anything about them, and it manages to create a good superhero, so action packed and everything, heroic storyline, but at the same time with an analysis of all the characters, because you actually get to know in depth every single one of them. Something that was lacking, for example, in the first Justice League movie, where it was basically, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. The others are just, the sidekicks. Anyway, there is the full spoiler-free review over on my channel if you want to watch that of the Snyder Cut. Hello, Americans. Wait. I keep on losing the chat. Hello, Americans. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Adash. Dread's my favorite Great Alex Garland film. Hi, ciao, Debbie. You want lessons for Speak Italian? How'd you find Kong versus Godzilla? I haven't seen it yet. I'm not sure how we can get to see it here in Italy. I don't know if it's on Sky or something. I haven't really looked into it because it's only on HBO Max, I think. I'm not sure. But I'm really interested because I really liked the previous Godzilla film. And people actually made fun of me because I nearly cried with the last Godzilla. There was, I don't know, a moment that was a bit touching. And when the first things of Godzilla, versus Kong came out, I was hyped but not that interested. But then the more I saw it, the more I saw about it, the promotional pictures and everything, especially these Chinese posters, which are always super exaggerated, I got more and more interested into it. And these are the kind of films that you have to see knowing they're just going to be super exaggerated, super packed with explosions. That's just how they are. They're huge monster movies. Because these posters came out saying how tall the characters were, and it was something, I don't know, like 100 meters or like absolutely ridiculous huge sizes. But that's what you're going to watch these films for. You want to see these huge characters hitting it, fighting. And I also saw like one clip like online, somebody posted like the opening scene, and that looked cool too, where there's like King Kong, but I'm not going to say much more about that. C'è qualche italiano qui? Yeah, there's much more than one. We remembered what happened on Twitch. Yeah, my live streams, like every time they were, it just never worked. It's just my connection, because it's all set up absolutely fine. I have all the encoding or whatever it's called software set up. Got all my pictures. I can pull up any video and everything. But as soon as we go live, and as soon as I put anything heavier than a picture, it just crashes. Sometimes even with just a picture. So unfortunately, I can't pull up cool stuff while I'm talking. We just have to talk like this. You'll have to put up with just seeing me right now. Hopefully somehow we'll be able to fix this. I just got a notification. I don't know if this question has already been asked or not, but I'm curious, did you, the Snyder Cut, if you said that if you mean that if I enjoyed it or not, yes, I did enjoy it. There's a full like spoiler-free review on the channel, so I'm not going to go too much into it now. But back at the time when the first Justice League came out, I went to the cinema to see it. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but I saw Justice League when I was living over in America. And if you're from America, you might know this. People tend to be louder in cinemas than they are here in Europe, or at least in Italy. It's just a different way of living the experience. Some people say it's rude. I don't think it's rude if it's what's common, because if it's common for everybody there, then it's not one person being rude. They just have a way of interacting more with what's being shown on the screen. They'll like clap, they'll laugh out loud and like point out things. Like, for example, when I went to see Isle of Dogs, people in the cinema were actually like clapping and commenting and laughing, if you see what I mean. Like, they interact more with it. And so when I went to see Justice League, of course, it was this huge moment. And Justice League is also a very bad film, so there was a lot of commentary going on. And I was very disappointed by it. I did a very angry review and like very disappointed review, and I don't know, I just didn't like it. So I completely erased it from my mind, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't go and read up anything. I didn't follow up with what happened with Zack Snyder's daughter who had died. Nothing. I knew nothing. I just knew that it was uh, a bad film. That's it. So years later, when I heard that Zack Snyder was coming back with remaking his own version of it, I didn't think much of it. Because I just associated with that film with being bad. And when I heard, oh, he's just going to recut it, I thought, what? How can you possibly recut that and make it into anything really good? I didn't know anything about all the production of this. I didn't know all about, the Joss Whedon thing, and I didn't know about his daughter. I didn't know they were refilming scenes. And then one day I was filming something in Milan for work, and I was talking with the microphone guy, the technician, I don't know the correct term, and he was like, "Oh, what do you think about the Snyder cut?" And I was like, I don't really care about it. And he told me everything. He told me about the daughter and everything. And I read up about more about it, and then all the trailers came out, and I just got more and more and more excited. And I ended up loving it. I really did. And people are a bit put off by the fact that it's a 4 hour long movie. Everybody I've talked to has said that it doesn't feel like 4 hours, and I agree with that, because the pacing throughout the film is made so that it doesn't feel like a 4 hour boring movie. It could have been cut down, yeah, but they're never very long moments that are dragged out that make you feel the length of the movie. Also, it's split into chapters, so theoretically you could watch it as a sort of mini series, like 4 short episodes, something like that. So yeah, that's the Snyder Cut. Devi per il problema connessione prova a modificare le impostazioni in modo da impostarlo come americano e non italiano. Legge italiana per le onde elettromagnetiche, limiti di parecchio la velocità in modo, ma impostando in modo come americano. Non ho la più pallida idea di come fare una cosa del genere. Ti devo dire la verità, non saprei assolutamente cosa dover fare lì. Parliamo di serie TV? Yes, sì, se volete anche di serie, anche lo vedo benissimo su in Italia, però people are speculating that Korean cinema is going to take over Hollywood. What do you think? I know that people are talking more about Korean cinema now since Parasite happened. Parasite won the Oscars and everything, and it looks like Stephen Young, I guess it's pronounced, or maybe Young, might win this year. I have a strong feeling he will win at the Oscars. He's the main actor in Minari, the new A24 film, if we want to talk about A24. I don't think there's going to be a taking over in the sense that people are just so used to like Western films, and Hollywood is Hollywood, and it's going to be kind of more American. But I can definitely see and appreciate how people are starting to open up more to foreign films. By the way, what is foreign? If you're in Korea, an American film is going to be foreign for them. So, but the Hollywood being the American part for them, Korea would be foreign. I see people are opening up a little more to foreign films. I think it's thanks to like younger audiences and the access to internet. If you think about it, people like, for example, my parents, who are in their 50s going onto their 60s, who were people who would watch Oscar-winning movies for the previous generations, obviously wouldn't have gone on the internet to find a Korean movie with subtitles to watch. They just watched whatever was shown in cinemas, whatever was available to them. Only who was a super die-hard fan of movies would manage to get their hands on like more niche, smaller films. He said, if you think about it, everybody of our generation now can, just go online now from their phone and find a movie from every country in the world and watch it. So people are starting to appreciate more art from other countries. And as you know, I've been trying to focus more on Asian cinema. And I know saying Asian cinema makes no sense because it's like saying European cinema. But Denmark and Sicily are two very different places, still being in Asia. But there is something that I just find so compelling about East Asian movies. One of the countries I've been falling. I was just speaking about this just a few hours ago, actually. One of the countries I've been loving watching more and more films. I think I actually need to lower my voice because I'm shouting and everybody in my household is going to bed. So I'm going to talk kind of quietly, but you should be able to hear me from my microphone here. I was saying there's just this thing about countries, for example, like Hong Kong films. I just find it so beautiful. I haven't even seen that much about them, but there's just something that's so different. And I don't know if it's the fact that it's different that attracts me. You know, when you're so fed up with seeing the same thing, and as soon as you see something different, you just think it's good. But I even read when I was doing a video about, Inception and how it copied Paprika and so on. And Paprika is this Japanese anime movie. And I read this article that was saying, while Hollywood is doing the same things, has been doing the same things for 50 years, Asian cinema is just on a whole different level. And I don't know, there's just something that I find limiting about watching just Hollywood movies. And I know it's just stupid because I don't know that much about Asian cinema. And again, saying Asian could be Indian, like it could mean Korean, like it could mean Chinese, like it could be anything from Southeast Asia that is just huge. But in general, I just don't want to be limited by watching the same blockbusters. And I found it, and I think that this desire of mine to expand might be due to the fact that when I was growing up, I didn't watch a lot of the big classics. Again, sorry if I've said this a million times in a lot of my videos, but basically, I didn't have a computer until when did I get this computer? Like 5 years ago, something like that. When I started my YouTube channel, just as soon as I started I bought this just a couple of months before. Before that, we didn't even have Wi-Fi at our house. We didn't have a computer, like a proper, big computer, until just a few years before that. And so I wasn't watching that many films. So what I relied on was going to the library and picking out films there. Obviously, at the library, you're not going to go and find The Godfather. You're going to find all these weird movies. And I kind of grew up watching a bunch of really odd things. Not weird in the sense of like, what the fuck, but weird and just different. And so that's why still to date, I'm lacking some big blockbuster movies. And I think I've always had that desire of watching these lesser known titles. I don't know. I'm kind of diverging from when you said about Koreans taking Korea taking over Hollywood. I don't think it's taking over. I just think people appreciating more and more Korean actors. And somebody cleverly said once that a lot of these films tend to be put into not a best film, it's like best foreign film. If you see what I mean, instead Parasite went as best film. It's just a good film. Whereas before it was also always a good foreign film. The good films for the Americans, the good foreign films were all these other ones. So there was always this difference, which is true when you think, yeah, Hollywood is America and everything else is foreign for them. Instead, people now are starting to say, Stephen Young is a good actor. It's not the good actor in a foreign film, if you see what I mean. Like there's this thing that's starting to take over. So yeah, that's what maybe I think. I do think that Stephen Young has high chances of winning the Oscar. I think people are also starting to. We were talking about this a while back that younger Asian generations tend to be a little more socially present than the previous Asian immigrant generations in America. At least that's what, if there's anybody Asian or Asian American or American here in the chat that can provide more information on this. But basically, what I've always seen is that older Asian generations would tend to have this very low key life, like sort of lay low, like just it's the hard work ethic. Not that the young ones don't have it, but this will have a sense. The hard work ethic and, stay low, just provide for the family. Because, for example, in China, for some older generations, they went through some very tough stuff. There was like famine. Famine, is that how you correctly say it? Famine. They starving basically in China, and so they developed this idea of, I need to be safe and accumulate as much as I can and provide for myself and my family. Whereas the younger generations, for example, in America, have by now adapted to the American lifestyle, and they don't have those struggles that maybe their previous families had, which is the same here in Italy, for example. A few years back, you wouldn't really notice people from, for example, North African origins, which is one of the biggest regions of immigrants in Italy. You wouldn't really hear of people speaking up on their behalf, whereas now the younger generations are, because the parents would come and they'd just worry about, I need to build a new life here, and I need to focus on being safe with my family and for my kids. I'm not going to go start speaking about issues in the country, because I'm grateful for being here, and that kind of mentality. Whereas the kids, or the younger generations, now have the possibility, they are stable enough to be able to speak up for themselves and for their rights. And that's why I think a lot of people have been speaking, for example, of the crimes against Asians, which have spiked due to coronavirus, and people just being total idiots and thinking it's like just it's their fault or whatever, and just this hate towards Asians. But a lot of people have said, wake up, these have been happening for years, just people never bothered. And maybe the Asian community didn't really stand up because of all these facts. So all of this, people are just starting to wake up more to the diversity and the issues that other minorities might have. All of this, sorry about that, I probably missed like a million comments in the chat. So let me just go down to the bottom to see if there's anything about that. But I'm sorry, I'm going to go down slowly, because otherwise I lose all the chat. But anyway, to say that that it looks like Koreans are taking over, and it looks like it's all about that we talk about, but in reality, it's just all things that have been there for a while, but we're just slowly accepting them as part of our life. And oddly enough, for example, here in Italy, where people tend to be racist because they don't have this huge multicultural, multi-diverse population, a lot of people have just it's become normal for foreigners. If you see, for example, people of African descent being just considered as Italians, which they are. And it's nearly absurd to see countries like the United States, who have a history of being diverse. The United States itself is basically based on diversity, because the actual Americans are Native Americans. And it's nearly absurd to see that they're still struggling with racial issues, whereas countries like Italy, where it's still odd for people to accept the idea of like a Moroccan guy now being totally Italian, or it's not more normal here, and we don't go around, there are racial issues and there are crimes against foreigners and everything, but still we don't have people kicking down Chinese people in the street. I don't know, but that's all another topic. I really don't get it. No. I refuse to watch Coming to America. No point. I loathe it. Yeah, don't watch. I mean, I hate saying this about not watching a film. I mean, feel free to watch it, but for me personally, it was a waste of time. It's just like watching Coming to America. It's like watching a remake of a worse remake of Coming to America, the original one. The new Coming to America was indeed such a huge disappointment. There were a few funny moments through, though. The references to the first movie in the choreographic fight with the daughters. One of the Anketa. Yeah, there were some moments that were kind of funny, but mostly it was because it was referencing the first film. But in my opinion, there was nothing particularly original and funny. It was just funny because you know what they were referencing. Coming to America was such a letdown. Within the first 15 minutes, I knew the rest of the movie was all downhill. Yeah. What do you think about Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I haven't watched it yet. You were able to watch Trainspotting at school. Lucky. Yeah, this was one of the perks of my high school in Italy. I don't know why, but my teachers had these things about making us watch films as part of like, I don't know, maybe I just had film loving teachers, but like I don't know how. I'm just going to quickly explain this because foreigners might not know how schools in Italy work. But basically, when you go to high school, you pick a sort of like topic that you're going to study, and there are all these different schools, and you become very specialized on something. So you can go from anything such as a hairdresser school to a maths based and science based school to mechanics. In my case, I studied languages, and every type of these schools follows like a series of topics you have to study, and sometimes they're totally unrelated. But for example, in my case, I even had to do philosophy. I don't know why, but we did quite a few years of studying philosophy, and so we'd talk about the old famous philosophers, but also we'd talk about general concepts, like God and consciousness and yada yada yada. But anyway, our teacher thought, he'd show us films, and so we got to watch The Matrix in school, which was cool. Or obviously for the foreign languages, we would watch like French films and German films, and we also have to do, I don't know, but there's religion in school. I don't know, there's a law about it, from Mussolini back at the time, that you've got to do religion in school, but you can opt out from it if you want. But basically, you don't really, when you're in high school, you don't study much about Jesus and the nativity or anything. You talk more about like abortion and the Catholic Church, because it's like Catholic Church in Italy. You talk about like the Catholic Church's position on like abortion, and you discuss about whether you agree with it and what you think. Or there was even like, when I was in high school, it was all about Lady Gaga coming out on TV and all her music videos, and it was all scandalous, and we talked about that. And we also watched a lot of films there. We watched films about like the death penalty, films about abortion. And then there was this big meeting of our whole year, and it was about drug addiction, because we were then about 16 at the time. And it was like the time when you have to start talking, more about drugs and everything. And so they put us all together in this huge theater room, basically, and they showed us Trainspotting. And a lot of people were shocked, maybe, also because at the time internet wasn't like this. Yeah, of course there was the internet, it's not like it was like 1990s or whatever, but it wasn't just like now when you're just exposed to much more stuff. So say girls of my age were super girly, and it was all about more girly stuff, if that makes sense. So obviously, if you show them Trainspotting, it was something they might have not been really exposed to, because it gets pretty graphic in some sequences. Anyway, so we were all sitting in this room, and at the end, lights turn back on, and the guy, I can't remember if it was a policeman or somebody that came to speak about it. He was like, "Oh, so did you enjoy this film? Lift up your hands." And me and my friend lifted up our hands, and nobody else was lifting them up. And the girls were just like, "Oh my God, what did I just have to watch?" Obviously, it wasn't their fault. Even I hadn't been exposed to that much, because if you were a teenage girl back at the time, you weren't really watching shocking videos on the internet. You were just watching Lizzie McGuire. I don't know. That was a few years back, but anyway. Sì, è vero, prima economico, ma spicciva solo in 1080p. Netflix è notevole perché vedi anche la grande nel piccolo in molti. Prime economico, sorry. I didn't read. Yeah, that's what somebody said about, because Matteo is saying about the difference between Prime and Netflix. And it's true, actually, because he's saying that Prime doesn't actually go in as good quality as Netflix. And we actually noticed this with my boyfriend and a few friends, that when you put on some films, the quality with which they come up on Prime sometimes is really crappy. and you notice it when you put it, like, on a big TV, like, in the living room or something, and we never managed to figure out why it was, so that's probably the reason. By the way, check out Jimmy's End, directed by Mitch Jenkins, with script by and featuring Alan Moore. Thank you for the recommendation. Is this a series or a film? Because somebody actually asked if we could talk about series, although I'm not actually that knowledgeable on series. Hi from Milan. Hi Paolo. Devo essere sincera, ascoltare Debbie è uno dei modi più interessanti per imparare l'inglese. Mi fa super piacere. I think Watchmen is the best comic book movie of all time. I don't know if it's the best of all time, but it's definitely my favorite one, although I'm also very partial towards The Dark Knight. Ciao, il tuo video l'Italia fa schifo andate all'estero da tempo indefinito sulla mia homepage di YouTube. Hai creato un mostro. In effetti è un video che ha scatenato molte polemiche. Yeah, I don't know if any of the foreigners have seen this, but this video, because it's in Italian, but a few years back I made a video which became a little controversial. I think a few people here on the channel have actually, quite a few have subscribed from that video because it got, I don't know, I've lost count of how many views. It's well over 1 million. I think it's closer to 2 million. But basically it was a video I made when I came back from the United States, and I was talking about how we often overlook things in our country and just the grass is always green on the other side kind of thing. But it had a bit of a catchy title and thumbnail, and people just went crazy in the, in the comments. Anyway, the comic book kicks the film's ass, so check out the Alan Moore film. Occhi con il film Jimmy's End, con la storia di Alan Moore con sua partecipazione. Are you reading anything at the moment? So I feel very, I'm going to have to learn my voice because I'm literally shouting here. I really wanted to, please let me know if you can't hear me talking. About 2 years ago, I bought a Kindle, and this was with the intention, it was maybe just before the lockdown, I can't remember. So I bought a Kindle with the intention of reading more because I have plenty of books here, but I basically read all of these and I wanted to explore more. And what happened was I was in New York, and in New York they have the Amazon shop, not the supermarket, but they have a shop where they sell all the Amazon basic products as well as other things, you know, popular things in the moment, yada yada. And so I walked up and I was like, oh, can I have a look at the Kindles? And they were like, yeah, yeah. And I was like, but what do you get included? And the woman was like, oh, with your Prime subscription, you get every movie for free included. I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I was thinking, I pay €3 for like my Prime. I was like, I can't believe this. I have Prime plus all the books included. I was like, great. Got back to Italy, bought the Kindle, and I realized that, of course, she was speaking for America, where they pay much more for Prime and they get everything included. You don't get it in Italy, which is a bit annoying, but that's just a side story. But anyway, so I bought the Kindle and I downloaded a few books. I was all excited. But then just, I don't know, work and everything just took more and more time. And I had this thing that I don't know why I always thought, because I used to read so much as a kid, and I always used to read before going to bed. And I was like, well, I should keep that up. I should dedicate like an hour before going to bed instead of using my phone to read. And I did give up my phone before going to bed. I actually use my phone much less now, but I keep on watching films because I have this thing in my mind. I'm always behind and I always need to catch up. And every film I see, and the more as soon as I go on like Twitter, I see these recommendations of other films, and I go on Tumblr and there are even more recommendations, and I just screenshot them all and I want to watch them all. And I'm always thinking, but if I just sit in bed now for an hour and I watch and I start reading, that's an hour I could have dedicated to a film. So I've got this stupid thing in my mind with, I don't know, so I need to find time for everything. But yeah, what did I want to say also? Yeah, the thing about my phone, we were talking about it kind of in the last live stream I did, about, you know, being addicted. I don't know if it was that last live stream we were talking, but I actually deleted some apps because the time you just waste on them is so much. And if you realize this, if you step away from certain social media platforms, even just for a couple of days, even one day, as soon as you go back on them, you think, what am I actually doing? This happened like 2 weeks ago. For some reason, I was very busy that week and I barely used Instagram. And I went back on Instagram, I think it was during the weekend. I mean, I was scrolling through the reels and I was literally thinking to myself, I seriously don't care. I was watching all these things and I was like, why am I even watching them? It just made no sense. And it was all stuff that I would spend hours watching before, literally hours, just scrolling, endlessly scrolling through the reels, through the photos, like on TikTok. And then you go back and you're like, I genuinely do not care. Like these people were just giving their tips about stuff, and I know it's not their fault. I know it's not that. I'm just thinking in my mind. I used to spend hours watching this content I seriously do not care about, and wasting so much time. So it's you can get unaddicted to it, clean from it, because it is an addiction. I don't care what people say. We're all addicted to social media. Um, And so now I've cut down a lot on it because I don't feel the need to go. I mean, I do still use Instagram. I post a lot on there and I have fun, but it's always now in a well thought out manner. I don't just stay there endlessly scrolling because literally it was just it was just depriving my mind of anything happy, because then the more you watch, the more you think, oh, look at all the views that person got. What if I did that? I could get more views. And well, look at they're happy. You think that because you know it's fake. You just know it because you know you see these people on holiday and you know it's all fake. But at the back of your mind, there's something in there saying, yeah, you're looking at this from your room while it's raining outside. You're not doing that. Or you see what other people are eating and you're like, oh, well, look at me. I'm just eating this plain pasta. Look what this person's eating. Or look how much this other person works out. Or this person has their dream job. But obviously, everything that goes on social media is ridiculously curated. Even people who say, "Oh, I don't care, I don't Photoshop my stuff." Yeah, but still you didn't put the first selfie you took. It's just normal. You want to post something nice. So take that multiplied by a million. Obviously, what you're going to see is just not reality. Mm. So anyway, all the time I used to spend now in the evening, now maybe read up on some news or what happened the day, or I have a look on Reddit, even Reddit is just a social media, but still maybe you can get to read something a little more interesting than seeing somebody just dancing on TikTok. If you see what I mean. And by the way, I don't. This is not the time and place to talk about TikTok, but I have a a strong hatred towards that platform. But anyway, all of this is to say that I haven't been reading as much as I should have. Today I'm a very talkative manner, and you can tell that I haven't talked with for a long time. What's up, Debbie? I was just wondering if you could go into more detail about how you felt about the Skins ending, if that's cool, as in Skins the series, because if that is, I have very vague memories about Skins. I actually made a video on Skins, on the whole series, ages ago, years ago, but I seriously cannot remember anything past like season 2. I don't know why, I just completely erased everything from my mind. So unfortunately, I can't give a complete answer on that. I'm considering watching Up tonight. Should I? I never watched it, although it's pretty old now. As in Up, the animated movie, you should watch it. It's a pretty good story. When I watched it the first time, I didn't find it maybe as sad as some people describe, because not sad, but there are a couple of like really emotional moments. Um, but still, it's a good movie. It's you know what? It has a good depiction of the elderly. Up is this film about this elderly guy who's sad. He is alone and he decides to leave everything, go on this journey. He puts all balloons on his house and he goes off. And this little kid joins him, who happened like a Boy Scout, who happened to be on like his front porch when the house goes off, and they go on this adventure together. And I really liked how it depicts the elderly as regular people, who they are, because often in films, there's this thing about the elderly people just being are silly and suffer from just dementia and weak and everything, whereas it's just a regular guy who happens to be elderly. Se hai guardato il suo video in verità lei dice, okay, it's not for me. Best scene in Watchmen, I helped myself to some beans. Clunk, I hope you don't mind. Something about it. Sì, ci sono anche italiani, sardi ed espatriati. Complimenti. Okay. Who will win best movie at the Oscar? Who are the nominees? Let me just pick them up. Get them up. Otherwise, I'll. Let me see. Oscars 2021. Where is it? The Wikipedia page, which is the easiest one to go through. Okay, here they are. Winners and nominees: Best Picture, The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, The Trial of the Chicago 7. I would have to think about this better, but Nomadland looks like one of the big titles of the year. It won at the Golden Globes. I'm pretty sure it won at the Venice Film Festival. It won a ton of things. I don't know about The Father. I don't know about Judas and the Black Messiah. I know lots of people like Mank. I still haven't seen it though. Sounds of Metal and Trial of Chicago 7. I don't think so. I think it will either be like Nomadland, Minari, Mank. Even Promising Young Woman. Not saying that I don't like these. I'm just thinking in an Academy kind of way. It looks like they're all sort of the same ones, even in Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress. It'll be interesting to see how the Oscars are this year. And by the way, for how bad 2020 and 2021 were, there are actually some pretty good titles on here. I mean, a few months back, we were thinking it's only going to be Sonic the Hedgehog and Bad Boys for Life. Instead, in the end, there were actually quite a few titles. Ciao, Debbie. Hi, Debbie. Ciao. Opinion on Lord of the Rings 4K edition. Have you seen this format? Great channel. Thank you. I have not seen a 4K edition. I've always seen either these Lord of the Rings or when they show it on TV or DVDs that friends had. I never watched a special 4K edition. I think the specialist edition I must have seen was on a DVD. They'd put at the end like the, how do you call it, like the like a documentary about the film and how they had created it, but I don't know what kind of DVD that was because I don't have it. Somebody must have lent it to me. I just have these. Ragazzi, benvenuti a Checkpoint Italiano. The 2017 movie let me down as well. I don't know referring to which one because I lost the chat. Hello from Austin, Texas. New to your channel. Enjoy your reviews. Looking forward to seeing June and October. Do you think releasing big blocks to films via stream like HBO Max will continue? I think that slowly we will transition back into going to cinemas. I know people were all about never going back to cinemas again. I think we will go back to that sooner or later, but I do think streaming platforms will start to adopt this HBO Max style thing where they'll basically release it online as well, because I think they figured out and they can just make a ton of money. Because if you think about it, people like us who are huge film lovers will pay for subscription services and use them a lot, like seriously a lot. Instead, I know people who just buy their Netflix subscriptions, and then they're only using them like, I don't know, once a month, something like that. And so multiply that by the number of people who have Netflix plans, or who, for example, I just have the basic plan where you can only have one screen at the time. Some people are paying for like 4 screens at the same time for the whole family. And then maybe half the family isn't even using it. Netflix is making a ton of money off of this. So they know that they can just make this sort of like passive income of people just having subscription services and never, or doing free trials and then forgetting it and just paying, how it happened to me with Disney Plus, where I had it and I forgot to cancel it. But yeah, so I think we will transition back to going to cinemas just because it's the thing and people just miss going to cinemas and so on. But streaming platforms will have a stronger presence. And I think they also managed, I don't know if you've noticed this, but if you go on TV now, loads of adverts are about streaming services. And I've noticed this in Italy. As soon as the government announces like that there's going to be a lot, for example, now we're in again, we've always been in basically a lockdown, but now we're in this lockdown where past 10 o'clock, for the last, I don't know, 5 months or something, past 10 o'clock, we're not allowed to go out of our houses. There's like a curfew, and you can't, at the moment, you can't go out of your town. So people like me are stuck in like small neighborhoods and everything. As soon as the government announces that, in the next few days, like every advert on TV is like, oh, do you want to subscribe to Sky? And do you want to subscribe to Netflix? And there's so much to see and so much to watch. And so I think they got in a lot of new people, like families and so on, who are just stuck at home and they're fed up of watching the same films with adverts, because I think that's what a lot of people got fed up with. For example, that's why I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. It's just there's too many adverts. So yeah, that's what I think will happen. Sulla storia del modem ti scrivo bene su Instagram come fare. Grazie, perché non sapevo assolutamente come fare. I can watch her reviews. I can't concentrate, just the right amount of cleavage. Ciao Italiano, I won't answer to that. The best part of the Zack Snyder's Justice League movie was Cyborg's story. I didn't know you have already reviewed the movie on your channel. I'm gonna check it out. Absolutely, if you want to check it out, it's spoiler free, but yeah, it covers a bit everything. So yeah, Cyborg. What happened? The difference between the first Justice League and this one was that it was before it was just Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and then it was, oh yeah, there's also Cyborg. That one was already kind of covered, but Cyborg and the Flash were completely excluded, and they were just like the funny sidekicks. But in Zack Snyder's Justice League, like each character has their own time and place and analysis, a bit like how Watchmen was. And people actually realized how strong Cyborg was. They realized why Aquaman is so reluctant to join the Justice League. They realized how important Barry Flash is. These are just all things that were overlooked in the first movie because, for example, Aquaman has some reasons why he doesn't want to join the Justice League, which is interesting because he's supposed to be a hero and he's supposed to be willing to join and save the world. But he has his reasons, which are explained in the film. But in the first Justice League, it became just sort of a comedic thing where he was the grumpy hunk. And Barry Allen was just a funny guy who eats pizza and he talks a lot. And Cyborg, nobody knew anything about him. He was just this robot. And I think this new film, actually covered more about that. Sorry, I'm just leaning here. This feels like just chatting to friends, just leaning here. Comunque, hai mai visto The Vampire Diaries? Cosa ne pensi? Qual è il tuo personaggio stagione preferita? Non ho mai visto. Scusa. If you like... Oh, I missed the comment. Why do I always miss it? I don't know why it always scrolls down to the bottom. If you like Asian movies, I suggest your YouTube channel, Accented Cinema. Let me put that in here. Let me write that down. Accented Cinema. Infernal Affairs is great and was a remake of The Departed, and Kill Bill was a remake of Lady Snowball. Yeah. Infernal Affairs is a film that many of you have recommended, and I didn't know this because I love The Departed so much, and I didn't know that it already existed as Infernal Affairs. And actually, it was you guys who told me about this. This is how ignorant I am about everything, thinking The Departed was this super incredible thing, which it is, but it was all based on already existing material. But I still have to watch it. It's been on my watch list for over a year. Have you watched a lot of Korean movies, or are you just starting to dive in? I've watched quite a few. I have watched quite a few, but All the Korean movies I've seen, or at least most of them, are Korean movies which are still pretty famous in the West. So, say if you went on a Rolling Stones list of best Korean movies you have to watch, those are probably the films. Most of the films I've seen. I've still seen some lesser known ones, but most of the ones I have watched are the big ones, not Parasite kind of films, but the ones people would have heard of. And that's I'm trying to go dig deeper beyond that. Um, but obviously, when you first get into like a stream of films, what you're relying on is lists and recommendations, and you're not going to go for the nichest movie. You're going to go for something that you can kind of easily find, if you see what I mean. It's like if somebody told you to watch Italian films, they'd be like, "I'll watch La Vita è Bella," which is a great film, but it's not the most uncommon Italian film. It's like one of the most popular ones in other countries. I liked your video about Capone. Capone, that's been like, what, a year since it was released? That feels like yesterday. Debbie, I just want to say that listening to your movie summaries are both pleasing to the ears and eyes. That's nice to hear. I'm so sorry that I haven't been actually posting that much. Do you think that video game stories could be considered more in the future like film stories are being considered today? I'm very ignorant about video games. So I don't know if you mean do you mean like the background story to a video game, like the basis of the game? If it would be something more in depth, like a movie. You're right. Older generations like my parents didn't wish to make waves when they first moved to America. For them, both assimilation was important. I was born in the US and I have a very different mindset. Yeah, this is what we were talking about. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback on that. I was looking forward for somebody to speak about that. Earlier on, I was speaking about how when you move to a country and you're a first generation immigrant, the last thing you're going to do is start questioning social issues and standing up for rights. If you move to that country, it's because you probably were looking for a better life or you were looking to do something, and your only concern is, putting down roots. And it's a bit what Minari is kind of about. It covers a lot of these topics, but the last thing you're going to do is start complaining or standing up or protesting. Whereas second generation kids are the ones who don't have to worry about all of that, and they're going to start questioning some social issues. That's why people again are saying, "Oh, we're just talking now about Asian hate crimes against Asian people," and Asian people say, "No, they've always been there. Just people didn't really stand up before." Yeah, but there was a really strong internal racism in Italy. There is racism in Italy, but I think it's mostly due to the fact that we here it is a multicultural country, as all countries are basically now. But still, we are here in Italy. We are very there are a lot of things that are all just the same. You eat in a certain way, you dress in a certain way, you do everything a certain way, and if you stray from that, it's seen in a bad way, if you see what I mean. So there's strict rules about what you should eat and how you should do something, and people will get offended if you don't do it in that way. So it's more of not getting used to anybody different, if you see what I mean. I think a lot of people in Italy like the fact that people in Italy tend to call anybody who is Arab, let me use that term, they call him Marocchino, which means Moroccan. Literally, if you say Marocchino to somebody, they know what you mean, and that could mean anything. Anybody who is slightly brown is a Marocchino. Anybody who's Asian is Chinese. And they don't mean it in a mean way. They just that's how they think about things. And what I was saying before is that instead, in way more diverse countries like the United States, they still have very big racial issues, which I can't understand why here in Italy there might be somebody who says effing. They might even use the N word, and it's wrong. It's wrong. You know what? I'm not saying it, but they won't go as often up to then shoot that person or kick him to death. Whereas in the United States, where they're used to having a very diverse population, because the United States is based on a diverse population, nobody in the United States except for Native Americans is American, if you see what I mean, racially, I mean. And yet they still have these huge issues of killing people because of their race. And it just mind blows me. So in Italy, we do have a lot of racial issues, but it just surprises me how countries who by now should have dealt with their issues are still struggling so badly with them. So diverse collection behind you. Nice. Yeah, we do have quite a few things up here. Well, it's all the Harry Potter section. And these are all like my childhood books, or like these all fall into pieces by now, but like, the famous 5 books. Yeah, quite a few of these. Do you think Tenet is overrated? I'm going to talk about that very quickly because I think people will talk about Tenet longer. I don't think Tenet is overrated, but I think Christopher Nolan could have got away with a lot less. I think he just wanted, and this is speaking from a huge Nolan fan, I think Christopher Nolan just went for, I'm just going to make it even bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Too much, just everything is too much, where he could have got away with a lot less. And I also think that a lot of Tenet fans, a lot of Christopher Nolan fans blindly defend, this was myself included a few years back, blindly defend anything Nolan does just because it's Nolan. So literally, Nolan is coming out with a new film, it's going to be good. And I know that in the worst case scenario, a Nolan film is not going to be that bad because of the budget that goes into it. If you've got a high budget, you're just going to pay the best and the best cinematographers and the best musicians and the best costume design. You just can't. So it's never going to be awful. But at the same time, there is this attitude towards Nolan where it's a bit the attitude towards Tarantino, where even before the film comes out, everybody's already thinking it's going to be the next masterpiece. Hello, Debbie. I love seeing your live streams. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, are you excited about the Oscars coming out? Which movies should win for you? I love The Sound of Metal. I know it's nominated for Best Picture. I actually had to Google them up before because I keep on forgetting what's being nominated this year. But I am excited, especially because this year is so different compared to other years. I do agree. Who's going to win? I think I need to think about it a little bit longer, watch a few nominated titles. I loved Sound of Metal. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture. It could potentially win for Best Actor for Riz Ahmed. Is he nominated? Is Riz Ahmed nominated for the Oscar, actually? But as I was saying before, there are, let me see. Yeah, he is nominated, actually. Who are the other ones? Because I'm thinking of Stephen Young, Chadwick Boseman. See there, it could be either Stephen Yeun because he did this great performance, but it was Chadwick Boseman's last performance ever before he died, and it was a great performance. So the Academy might be in that position, whereas it's the last time to honor him, and also it was a great performance, so they wouldn't be just giving it to him because he died. If you see what it's like, Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger would have won the Oscar anyway, whether he died or not. It was not the sympathy Oscar, it was a well-deserved one. And here it could also happen for Chadwick Boseman. Instagram and TikTok destroy the attention span of the younger generation. Yeah, this, I don't know, I have this thing against TikTok. Like, I don't know. I just think it's the emptiest social media platform out there, and it's the most addictive. I used TikTok for a few months. I still have the account, but I deleted the app. I just don't have it on my phone because it was just so time consuming, and it's so addictive because when you scroll, the time between one video and the other is so fast. It's like just endlessly scrolling between these topics, and the algorithm is so clever that it picks up if you stayed even a half a second longer on a video, the next 4 or 5 videos are going to be similar to that. And this is instant. Like literally you'll scroll and the next video will be something tied to that. It's insane. And also TikTok is based a lot on how do you say it? Like repetition. So younger kids will know that if they use a certain song, if they use a certain like dance or topic, they're going to get more views, they're going to get more likes. There's no creativity involved. Some creators are incredible on TikTok. Some of them have made me absolutely crack up laughing. There's some beautiful stuff made on there, some most hilarious stuff. But the vast majority of TikTok is just copying what other people have done, because what you can do is use the same sound. Like, say you like a video and there's some music on it, you click on that music and you can recreate the same thing, or you can stitch it where basically you will do something side by side and you can respond to comments in videos. So it's all this repetition of the same thing over and over again. And this generates millions of videos, millions of views, because it doesn't take that long. When I first got TikTok, I had no idea how to create a video because I don't know how to I didn't know how to make, the different transitions, like edit a video and put the music in it and the effects. And it literally takes you no time at all to figure out how it works. It's very self-intuitive. So even the smallest teenager can figure out how to do that. And so it takes nothing for them to get on the app. It's not like, say Instagram is easy to use, but still to figure out how to use it efficiently, you need to, you need that moment to figure out, okay, so the story, and then I have to do this, and then I have to go over here to post it, and the messages. TikTok, it's just all there. And then when you open the app, say in Instagram, you open the app, you're straight away, you're not on the videos, you're on your feed. You have to go on the reels. Said on TikTok, you open it and it's already showing, and you literally open it and your fingers already scrolling it. And the attention span, yeah, I agree with you, it's absolutely awful. It's absolutely awful. And the content is just empty, because even on Instagram, which I still hate, but on Instagram, still you need to put that kind of effort into making a good photo, or like a story, you might have to like put a different font or something. And whatever. The reels are basically just TikTok. People are just uploading for TikTok. So it's basically like talking about the same thing. But say on photos, to be actually noticed, you have to post for like a few months or years consistently, good quality photos. On TikTok, there's no quality involved. You can anything. It's just based on like basically just like shit posting and repetition. Social media is toxic. Yeah, I agree. Greetings from Greece. Hey, Billy. I was meaning the skin series, yeah. And then I thought you were meaning that, but I seriously don't remember the end of it. Oh, again, I skipped the comments. YouTube for me is the platform for content, better programs on TV. Yeah, a lot of people enjoy YouTube because you can customize it to being your TV. So if you subscribe to only the people you care, somebody donated $20. Oh my goodness. Who is it? Justin. Hi, Debbie. As someone bilingual, can you give your thoughts on the meaning, humor, and other nuances that get lost when watching the workplace subtitle dubbed over? Yes, of course, Justin. Again, thank you so much. I don't know if you guys tell it, but then I always become red when the donations and stuff. Yes. So there's this huge discussion between. I will get back to the other comments, but I think Justin deserves a moment here. There's this huge discussion surrounding whether work should be watched in its original language, or whether dubbing it loses its quality. I've always had in Italy, let me gather my thoughts. In Italy, a lot of people don't complain about this. Most people don't complain about this because it's kind of universally recognized that Italian dubs are pretty well done. I don't know why. Nobody really understands why. I don't know if it's because the Italian language is complicated, but because it's very nuanced. So you have all these complicated words to describe the same thing. So um, you can easily manage to find the correct expression to describe what the original actor is saying. Whereas on the contrary, it's often hard to do it the other way around in English, because English tends to have these sort of basic sentences and structures, if you see what I mean. Like in Italian, you can have 20 different ways of saying the same thing. In English, it's very, very simple, very basic. So nobody is often worried about that. But there's this big question about whether a work of art is ruined when you take away the actor's original work, because you're not actually listening to the actor, you're listening to somebody else. I think that the best thing to do would be to see it in the original language, just because that's how it was meant to be. And even if the actor has an annoying voice or it's hard, that's how it would have been. But if it gets hard, because some people might struggle with focusing with the subtitles, or they're people who just don't, they don't, they feel it's too hard to follow. It would be better to watch it dubbed than not watch it at all, if that makes any sense. So, for example, if you're Parasite, if you don't feel confident enough with watching a Korean film with subtitles, it would be best to watch it dubbed than not watch it at all, because then you'll be losing out completely on the whole film, if that makes sense. One thing that I do think is often a problem with dubbing, with translating films, etc., are the titles. And that is very famous here in Italy, when they have absolutely destroyed some titles and made the films appear something completely different. I don't know which country you're from, but here in Italy, it's very famous that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is a very introspective, dramatic, interesting, memorable, thought-provoking movie, and it's about just the title, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's beautiful, it's like a poem. Well, it's been translated in Italian to "Se mi lasci ti cancello," which means basically, if you dump me, I'll delete you. And it's made to be like that sentence is made to sound like a funny comedic silly movie, maybe because there's Jim Carrey in it. So obviously, if somebody doesn't know what Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is, they're not going to feel attracted to that film in that sense. And this has happened more than once. And I don't know, sometimes it's perfect. The title comes out perfect. The Pursuit of Happiness is La ricerca della felicità. It's just the same thing. But some titles just I don't know, something is just lost there. So I think that's the big problem, not so much the dubbing, because I'd rather prefer somebody watch it dubbed rather than not watch it at all. But at the same time, I do agree that if an original work of art was made like that, that's the best way to see it. Again, this is connected back to what we were saying before of, for example, the Korean movies being considered just good foreign movies instead of good movies. And Bong Joon-ho, the director of Parasite, when he won the Oscar last year, was it last year? 2 years? Last year. He said, when people overcome the issue of watching of the 1-inch subtitles, they will open up to a whole new world of movies, which is true. Before, I spoke about people who struggle with following subtitles, maybe because all their whole life they've never watched a film with subtitles. If I get my parents to watch a film with subtitles, they're just going to get fed up because they're never used to it. But for us, who are used to watching more and more films with subtitles, why don't we open up to a bigger world of foreign movies? Why don't we do that? Maybe we're lazy. I don't know. So I think that's more or less what I think about this issue. I'd made a video on this, but years back. I don't even remember what I said. What I said in that one, and I was talking about train spotting. Can't remember why, but there was train spotting on the thumbnail, and I think it was because, for example, train spotting in itself is hard to understand even for a mother tongue I'm English, and the first time I watched Trainspotting, I had no clue what they were saying because they speak in Scotland. They speak with a very strong Scottish accent, and it's very hard to understand. So I can imagine how that is even harder for a foreigner who's trying to follow the film. But yeah, and thank you again so much for the donation. Let me just go slowly back up because I was. Oh yeah, somebody was saying about YouTube. Yeah, that YouTube is better than TV. I think YouTube is like the TV in which you decide who to follow. Instead of just watching whoever's on TV, you can pick to watch who you prefer. And also, it's like watching a show, but from people more similar to you. For example, you guys might feel more that I might be more relatable than somebody on TV just because I'm actually here speaking with you and talk with you, and I might talk in a more down to earth manner. Whereas if you turned on TV, it's more scripted, if you see what I mean. And you know that the money involved is much more, although I'm pretty sure that at high levels on YouTube, there are people who are making a ton of money. But obviously, you know, it's logic that if you see someone like me, I'm not getting 10 million a year like some TV presenter, whatever. So it might feel something more relatable, and also not as many adverts as on TV. Greetings from India. Hi, movie nerds. Isn't it like the middle of night right now in India? Does virus start to fly past 10 p.m.? Yeah, it's one of the big issues people have in it. I'm not going to get into coronavirus because that's, I think, the last thing people want to talk about is the virus. But what everybody's angry about in Italy is not the fact of the restrictions, because we were the first country in the world after China to end up with the virus. We all know what happened. It was all over the news and people were dying, and it was horrendous. So we're just used to the restrictions. What people are really annoyed with is that the government has taken some very, what's the word, like hypocritical, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the word to explain it, but for example, you can go to church, but you can't go to the cinema, which makes no sense to me, because apart from the fact that people that are going to church are usually older and more vulnerable, and if you go to the cinema, literally you have to book your place. The system doesn't allow you to sit next to anybody else. It automatically blocks all the seats around you. You have to wear a mask. And there are people coming in and checking, because I went to see Tenet like this, and they were literally checking on us. Your temperature's measured at the entrance. You have to put the hand sanitizer on. You're not allowed to eat, or maybe they put the thing of eating, but you can only take your mask down to, I can't remember how it worked exactly. They write down your name and the seat in which you're sitting and the phone number so they can call if anything happens. It was all this thing. That's not allowed, but going to the cinema is, going to church is. 80-plus-year-olds going to church, the most vulnerable category. Or, for example, here in Italy, for the last months, quite a few months, you can't go out after 10 because there's the curfew. And I think it was to avoid people like gathering in bars, but bars are closed after 6. So people, the only thing they were doing after 10 was literally just walking around. Can't do that. You can't go out after 10. And restaurants are closed in the evening, but they're open at lunchtime. Again, I see their logic was that people tend to go out to eat more in the evening and they tend to gather with other people. But it just makes no sense, because so it's all like one thing is not okay, but another thing is. I went to the supermarket the other day and I needed to buy some socks, and I discovered you can't buy them because they're not considered essential things. You could only buy food, but for example, you could buy beauty products. You could buy beauty products, but not socks or underwear. What is more essential? Do you see what I mean? And that's what people are annoyed with in Italy. And I cannot imagine how it must be to be a business owner who has literally had his shop closed for the last months, because in other countries, shops are struggling because they don't have that many customers. You know, all these restaurants you see in New York, they're complaining because of course they don't have that many customers because everybody is at home. In Italy, they're complaining because they literally can't open. Or, for example, now restaurants are open only for takeaway. Or, it's all just these absurd laws of what you can do and what you can't do. So that's the annoying thing. So yeah, after 10 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, the virus arrives. Not before that. 9:59, it's not there. Can't wait to get back to the cinema. Yeah, me too. The only film I managed to get to see in cinemas last year was in the summer when they opened the cinemas for like a couple of months was Tenet. Familiar with films from the Philippines? No, I'm not, unfortunately. Although when I made my video about where my subscribers are from or where my followers are from, I asked everybody to send me some recommendations from their countries they were from, and somebody sent me a recommendation from the Philippines, but I'd have to go back. I have them screenshotted actually on my phone. I suggest you watch old Filipino films from ABS-CBN. It's available on iTunes. Let me write that down. I have everything, all the recommendations of it. Maybe Philippines. How do you feel about award ceremonies not showing love to horror flicks? Saint Maud, the best film last year, yet no love. Mostly, the award ceremonies have been slightly opening up to horror movies with things like Get Out. But still, if you think about it, Get Out was more of like social commentary film. I'm not going to say why because it would spoil the movie, but there was a lot of that along with the horror component. I don't know why it looks like they don't seem to value the artistic aspect of a horror film. No clue why. I think certain films like Hereditary and Midsummer, not saying that they deserved an Oscar, but I definitely think they were better than other award-winning films in the past. But I don't know, the award ceremony just seems to have this thing against horror movies. No clue. No clue why. Maybe it's just because in the past there used to be these cheesy horror films, the kind of kids climbing up the walls and vomiting, and I think you have to go all the way back to The Exorcist for things to actually be considered award worthy. I've got some Korean film recommendations for you. Easiest to tweet than to. Yes, please do that. Debbie getting much more natural and nice speaking on online streams. I'm still always nervous, but I guess practice helps of chatting. And also, see, I'm leaning like this. I should be sort of like, this is not, wait, sorry, everything is squeaking here. But, those like Twitch streamers who are all posed up. Yeah, I think I should stay a bit more straight because I was slouching over here. Ogni est europea è polacca. Riferitosi ai marocchini, cinesi, tutto un gruppo unico. What do you think about Scotland? Well, I actually have never been to Scotland. This is one of the things one of the things I want to visit. One of the places I want to visit, Scotland and Ireland. And I've never been to either country, although it is quite easy for me as I'm often in the UK. But the thing is, from Italy, it's pretty expensive and hard, at least from where I live, to get to both Scotland and Ireland. You have to pay way more than for England. You can get like €9 tickets. It's ridiculously cheap with Ryanair. But if you want to get to Scotland, you've got to like get another flight, and I don't know why it just gets ridiculously expensive. So I've never bothered. And then I've considered, like taking a train all the way up or taking a bus. But for some reason, I always postpone it because every time I'm in England, I think, why don't I just take a train from here? Why don't I just take a bus to Scotland? Obviously not to Ireland. Just because I see these photos of just these beautiful, beautiful, landscapes and everything. And it's so easy for me because where my family is from close to London. So from London, I assume there must be a train or a bus or something. And then the other day I watched Billy Elliot, and it's not set in Scotland, but it's set in the north of England. And they take this bus to go to London. And I thought again, see, they took a bus all across of England. Why can't I just take a bus or a train all the way up to Scotland? Da quando ho scoperto il tuo canale sono una persona migliore. Ho smesso di tirare quando c'è scritto spingere. In che senso? Cioè mi fa piacere che sei una persona migliore, ma cosa vuol dire tirare quando c'è scritto spingere? Favorite song from the Magical Mystery Tour, Fool on the Hill. This is a reference to this. I don't know if I'd be able to pick one specifically, but as you brought this up, I think we should talk about this because this came from a very special place in New York. This is why it's still wrapped up and everything. This is one of those things that I'm never going to never. Oh, look, I actually have some color now that this is. See how I'm all blue and green, and then I put this. Look at that. Anyway, this came from a very special place in New York. It's a record store, and it's the guy in there. I don't know why. I don't know if something happened, but after a while, he wasn't there anymore. And I don't know if anything happened, but when you go there, it was called. Don't know if it was like Bob's Old Records. I don't know if because he was called Bob, and I can remember it was like old records, but I don't know if it had the Bob in front. And he has this huge collection of everything possible in this tiny narrow place. And when we went in there, because even my boyfriend got something for himself, there were a couple of guys. They were actually Italian. They didn't know that we were Italian too, and they literally wanted to open something. Like they wanted to open the plastic on this just to see how it was inside before buying, because some of these can get pretty expensive. I can't remember how this was, but this wasn't too much. But some of the stuff they had in there was really expensive, and it's not the kind of stuff you can just fiddle with. And they made all this whole scene about that they weren't going to buy it if they couldn't open it, if they couldn't see what there was inside. But why would you do that? Like, don't you acknowledge the fact that this is made on purpose to protect it? What if you're just going to open it and then not buy it? And they made this huge scene and they started shouting, and the guy basically kicked them out of the place. And sorry about that. Anyway, so that's a memory I have of that place. But yeah. But I don't know. I don't want to be just a basic person and say, I don't know, strawberry fields or something. But yeah. I don't know, it's just a memory, and sometimes I think back of when we were in New York and we could just walk around and randomly go into a place and have a fight with somebody about opening a package before the virus, and I don't know, I just can't wait for that time to come back. And now it's 10 o'clock and the virus has come out, so we've got to go back. Anyway, how do you watch movies that are good but boring and long? Well, if they're good, usually my attention is kept throughout. Otherwise, there's no harm in stopping a movie, taking a pause. People have this thing of like, if they're watching a movie, they can't even stop for 2 seconds to take a break or something. But you can always watch it in 2 parts. There's nothing. I've done that with a few films. Actually, in these days, I was watching a Thai film called Happy Old Year, and it's a really good movie, but it was a bit slow paced, and I watched it over like 3 days, something like that. Probably was better watching it all in once, but instead of just abandoning it, I decided to have some breaks. In the end, I ended up enjoying it more. This film is, see again, I wish I pull up images and everything, but this film is about this Thai woman who moves to Sweden. And in Sweden, she falls in love with like the minimalist architecture and having those minimal like white houses. So when she comes back, she decides she wants to do that in her house. Plus, for work reasons, she has to sort of clear out her house anyway. But her house is very cluttered. Like those kind of houses where there's just everything accumulated over the years. Not a hoarder house, but just how houses become with time, and she lives with other people, like her mum and her brother. Anyway, so she starts clearing it all out, but the more she clears out and the more she starts thinking of, is this a good thing? Or she finds that ties her to, moments in her life and memories and people she'd forgotten about. And she starts thinking about all this stuff. And It's a pretty interesting thing. Like somebody just sent me something. Let me see. It is my boyfriend sending me something, and I don't know if he knows that I'm live, and I don't know if this was meant on purpose uh, to make me laugh while I was on during the live stream. Uh, how is Blu-ray or physical media collecting in Italy doing right now? I'm not actually a huge collector of DVDs. I do have a few that are up here, like above here, so you can't see them at the moment. You see them in my, but there are very few. I have a few through in the other room, but I've never been a huge DVD collector. It's always been mostly online. So unfortunately, I'm not that knowledgeable about that. TikTok made for brainwash. Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to not look ridiculous on TikTok. I mean, some creators have actually made like really fun stuff, like hilarious content, because it's a bit like, the it's a bit like Vine. Again, I don't know if you guys remember Vine. You had like these 7 seconds. People are a bit upset that Vine's not there anymore because you had to be creative with Vine. You had 7 seconds, I think it was, to convey a story. And so it usually ended up being funny because there was just a moment to set up like the punchline, and that was it. And and TikTok kind of had that potential because some people managed to create in these 30-second stories something really funny, something really relatable. But then it just gets lost in, the repetition and the dances. And again, you don't actually need to be creative. On YouTube, for example, you can just post rubbish content. But on the long run, if you do want to stand out, you do have to have some creativity. Even the people like, I don't know, Jake Paul, or you know what I mean, just people who post mindless content. In reality, it's not that mindless. It's all well thought out. Just to us, it might seem like trash. You still need somebody who's editing the video. You need somebody who's committed to doing YouTube every day. There's that some in every on every social media platforms. There's that minimum amount of effort you need to put in to stand out. On TikTok, you don't actually need this. And for example, when Bella Porch made that famous video of her just moving her head, and it became one of the most like viewed and most liked videos of all time. It had millions and millions of views and and it was literally just her moving her head to a song. And it's nothing, no hate towards her. I know she received actually a lot of hate for that because people were just jealous of her fame. It's not her fault. It's just how the platform is programmed. It's programmed for very short, nonsensical, mind filling content. You don't want to think too much when you're doing that. You, when you're watching that, sorry. I would go on TikTok when I was going to bed and my mind was full from stuff from work and I just wanted to distract for some time, and I would just watch this stuff, and then I just realized how just plain stupid it was. Oh, Justin, again, thank you. I'm so again, you can't see that I'm red because this is also green. It looks like I'm in the Matrix, but thank you so much. I'm very curious if you have any screenplays you're actively working on or imagining. If not, suppose you had to write and direct of a film of your own, what would it be about? That's $1 million question. I don't have a screenplay I like have, and I couldn't, I imagine a lot of things. And I think every film lover does. They imagine all these different stories and they get inspired by different films. And every time they step out of the cinema, they they think about all this new life and new ideas. Again, speaking of TikTok, there was this funny TikTok of a guy that goes to the cinema and then he walks out and he's like me walking out of the cinema ready to base my whole life on the main character for the next 2 weeks. And that happens, you watch a film and you're like, oh, I'm going to make a story like that. But if I had to write and direct a film of my own, I don't know if I'd have a thing that now I'd say, oh, I'd really want to make a film about that. I really don't know. I am a big fan of like science fiction, so maybe I'd like to do something like that. But I don't have at the moment just like one topic that I'd really want to do. One thing I'd probably not do, that I really never thought about doing, is a sequel like to a film. You know how some directors become famous for making a sequel to something? I don't think I'd just want to step in and make a sequel. If it would be, I would like to create something of my own, something original. But if I have to be honest, I don't know what I would make it about. I don't know. That gives quite a lot of food for thought. But are you interested in screenplays? Are you thinking of one of your own? Let's see, a nice one. I think the problem resides in the screenplay way. Oh, I lost the comment there. I think you were referring to somebody. I watch Mario Bava and Spaghetti Western Stub, but not Bicycle Thief or Dogman. I don't know, it depends from title to title. I remember that years back, I used to be a huge fan of Doctor House, and I used to watch it on TV in Italy, and it was. This is referring to the question before about watching dubbed films, and I used to watch it on Italian TV, so obviously it wasn't Italian. Now on regular Italian TVs, you can on most channels you can set it to the original language, but you couldn't back at the time. So for months, if not years, I would watch Doctor House in Italian. And then one Christmas, I was over in England, and Doctor House was on TV, and I was like, "Oh, let me watch this," because I loved him so much. And it was just so awful and hard for me to follow it in English, just because I was so used to the characters in Italian, and for me, they'd just become that's how they spoke. Walter Clemens, hello. Justin White, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the donations and for the questions. I'm sorry I wasn't being able to give a more interesting answer about the screenplays. Speaking of YouTube, do you have any film channel recommendations? I'll have to pick up my subscriptions here. Let me see. Oh, let me see if I can see them from here. It's mostly like, how do you call them, like the like Netflix, you know, the big channels and so on. But let's see if there's somebody. I'm seeing a lot of like other channels that are not related to films, which could be interesting. There was, for example, how's he called? Austin McConnell is the name. Let me see if I can find him. He doesn't speak necessarily only about films, but he's made a lot of interesting films, which aren't interesting videos, which aren't just film reviews. Where was the film that he had made about? He had made like this one video like about a year ago in which he explained. I hope it's him and I'm not getting confused, but basically in which he explained every single person. You know, when you get to the end titles and there's like producer, director, first unit assistant, blah 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 blah. And he literally explained what every single person did, which I thought was very interesting. I really wanted to find the video he'd made not too long ago. There it is. I bought the rights to, it is Austin McConnell, but there's no way you're going to manage to see that here. But basically, it was about this bad Jack Nicholson, an old bad Jack Nicholson movie he had seen. Anyway, he's one of a good YouTuber who speaks about cinema and not only. Right, so I'm trying to see if there's anybody else in here that I could recommend. I don't really watch Chris Stuckman. Nothing against him, but I don't really like to watch those sit down, stand alone review kind of films. Kind of YouTubers. Svetlana, ciao, Luciana. It is slavery in law. Referring to what? Paolo Celli, hi, Debbie. As an internet personality, well, I don't know if I consider myself an internet personality, but I see what you mean. How do you feel about people complimenting you? Would you rather it not happen? Is it bad or good for you? I think compliments, it depends how they come. It's always nice to be complimented, but I have received comments which were out of, if you're posting a photo in which you think you're pretty and it might be a more, I don't know how to say it, a more revealing photo, or it's people find it easy to comment under that, things that although you kind of should expect. I don't know if if you're posting a photo in bikini and then somebody comments that your body looks good in a bikini, you can't just then say, oh, why would you comment that? But I don't like it when I post a normal photo and people then comment, because I received this comment saying, uh, oh, but where are your boobs? In the end, I subscribed just for that. I mean, you might think that, but don't message me saying that. That really puts me down, because it means that you think that my work isn't that good, or you know what I mean. Or people are, yeah, they just say, oh, we don't care about that. Or some people commented under some of my videos saying, but in the end, somebody really follows you for the content, that follow you only because you show your boobs or whatever. First of all, I don't think that good content and physical beauty, or intelligence and physical beauty, necessarily eliminate one another. There's this thing in society where if you're pretty and you like to enhance your prettiness and you like to show your body, then you're inherently stupid. And I don't understand why. Of course, if you're posting a video and it took you a week to make, and you know that anybody on YouTube who is scrolling TikTok style will scroll past your thumbnail in a fraction of a second, that thumbnail has to be something that captures your attention. Hence the bright colors, hence the big smiley faces, hence the best aspects of yourself, hence the big recognizable faces. You'll often have been annoyed by thumbnails of people which might have been a bit clickbaity, or might have had exaggerated faces, the classic screaming YouTuber face. That's because these photos aren't meant to be on your wall. They're meant to stop the attention of somebody who's literally scrolling that fast. So of course I'm not going to post a hideous photo of myself. And people don't understand that. And I love it when people say, I stayed for the content, because that means you actually value that there was a content that I worked on. And somebody sent this message to me a while back, and I got angry, and I shouldn't even have answered, but this guy messaged me, and he didn't message, I think he commented under a video saying that I'm sold out and every girl is sold out, and as soon as you get a little bit of fame, you show more and more of your body, and you just sell it for views. First of all, I don't know if you realize how many views you would have to make on YouTube to make a ton of money. This is not 2009, okay? Second of all, if somebody becomes more, if today you were supposed to go in front of a camera for the first time in your life and post a video, you're not going to have the confidence that a person who has been doing it for 5 or 6 years has. In my first videos on YouTube, I was basically shaking, and the least I could show of myself, the better, because you just had to go there, put this thing out, and terrified of what people might comment. As time goes by, you feel more confident with how you look on camera and how you sound on camera. The feeling of hearing yourself being recorded. Imagine us YouTubers who have to listen to that over and over and over and over again when editing. And trust me, even to us, it sounds weird. I hate my voice, but you just become more confident, or you become more confident with how your body looks. Maybe you would hide some things, or you would look a certain side, so like the jawline would show more. And you just become more confident. That doesn't mean you're selling out. There's some people who have done that. Some people have just realized, you know what, I'm just going to not bother about the content as long as I put some boobs in it. But that's their stuff. That doesn't mean we're all like that. I think that actually my content has become better over the years because maybe I didn't research certain videos earlier, or I did, but not in the same way. For example, I was talking about Justice League. Back at the time, I made a review about the first Justice League film without even knowing what happened with Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon and everything. That was probably stupid on my behalf. Nowadays, my videos might take longer and I make less of them, but they tend to be more curated, more researched. The first live streams, what did we talk about? 3 films, and that was me just stuttering the whole way through. Confidence starts to come through, you know. So I like it when people compliment me, and I don't mind compliments on my body because it's just like saying to somebody, oh, look, you look really good. What I don't like is when they get out of line, you know, people become very vulgar and they don't realize there's somebody on the other side. And trust me, I've deleted a lot of comments and blocked a lot of people because some people just don't realize what they're writing and they don't realize they're on the wrong website for certain comments, and don't realize how degrading they are and what they say. But what I don't like is when people say, you know, oh, well, you know, we're all here for something else. It's not true, because some of the videos which have got most views on my channel are some of the most loved videos on my channel, the ones where I didn't even have a lot of makeup on. I had a baggy t-shirt on, and so anyway, so yeah, I do like compliments as long as they're, you know, not vulgar. I have a horror movie for you. I don't know, maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, but it's called Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. No, I haven't seen that, but you know what? I'm going to write it here, where there's all my notes. Thanks for the recommendation. And hello from Detroit, Alabama. Hello, come on. Yes, I took a train from King's Cross, that to go to Scotland. See, then I don't have any excuses. Debbie, le ragazze dicono che sono brutta e che faccio schifo, la mia mammina dice che sono belloccia, chi devo credere? Non so se sia inteso come una battuta, ma ti rispondo in modo serio. So, io dico che devi pensare a te stesso, non pensare a quello che pensano gli altri in ogni caso. Oh my god, abbiamo lo stesso poster attaccato. This one here, this poster here, he says we had the same. I think this came from the cinema when I went to see the movie. I'm so jealous for your amazing and perfect pronunciation. Well, a lot of Italian followers, I don't realize that I actually am English. They think that I'm Italian, but who has studied English. But no, c'è il trucco, che sono inglese. Hey Debbie, just drop in a few minutes to say hi and thank you for the awesome content. Thank you so much. Thank you for following. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things is one of the first zombie movies I have ever seen. I guarantee you like it. Yeah, I wrote it down. Rest in peace, Prince Philip. Yeah, he died. Was it yesterday or the day before? Yes, the day before. Yeah. Oh, I missed all the comments again. Oh no, I didn't see there was another donation. I can't compete with Justin, but I thought I would help. No, every little helps. Thank you so much. Seriously, and I recognise your username as a long-time follower, so thank you for being there over the years. I'm so glad I found you years ago. Yeah, I remember the username. Keep up the great work. Do you have a dream place to live? I don't know if that'll ever be somebody's dream place. You know, there's so many places in the world. Actually, I was talking about this the other day, that maybe we'll never know what our favourite place in the world is because we'll never get to visit every place in the world, or we will never get to visit all the places in the world in the right time. Maybe I'll go to visit a country which is perfect for me, but in that precise moment, I might not be in the right mindset, or something might happen. We were talking about this just the day before yesterday, I think, about how the best place, we might never discover what the best place is. Italy is not a bad place actually to live. A lot of people criticize it, and there are a lot of things that don't work, but there are a lot of pros about living in Italy. Debbie, ma quanto ci metti a sottotitolare i video? Non faresti prima girarlo in italiano? So Adi is asking how long I take to subtitle videos. wouldn't it be faster to do them in Italian? I have actually in the past made videos both in English and Italian. I did it for Joker, and it actually takes longer. It takes longer because you have to re-edit the whole video again. Doing the subtitles, it depends. It depends if YouTube puts YouTube basically does like an automatic subtitle, does the automatic subtitles, and then you go in and you can rework on them, and then from there you can translate them automatically and then rework those. Timing, it depends. Sometimes it takes 2 hours, sometimes it takes 4 hours. I would say in the range of a couple of hours. On a very short video, you can probably get away in about an hour-ish if you're going really fast, but that's pushing the limit. I would say at least 2 hours to do it. But it's worth it because I know a lot of people use subtitles on my videos. We have a huge Indian community on my YouTube channel, and they do speak English, but I know they find it helpful, or the Italian to have the English subtitles, or the Italians use the Italian subtitles. Sei italiana più brava a parlare inglese, chapeau. Però c'è il trucco che sono metà inglese. Complimenti per quello che fai, da filmmaker mi sarebbe piaciuto conoscere il mondo reale invece che qui solo per parlare ore e ore come persone normali. Facciamo quello che si può. Do you follow any Italian YouTubers? Not many. Not many, just because everything I really watch is mostly in English. One YouTuber I've been following for a while, an Italian one, is Progetto Happiness. He's the guy who became very famous when he did that series of videos in visiting North Korea. It's one of the few Italian YouTubers who made the big, like, I went to North Korea videos. And he's all about these, like recently he did about detoxing from social media and, about being happy. I don't know, I kind of like his content. Thanks for sharing. I'll check out Austin McConnell. I recommend the channel like Stories of Old. Let me write that down. I have like a list of things here. We like you here. Stay authentic. Yes, always. Hey Debbie, greetings from Luxembourg. Hey Victor. Brie Larson and Carrie Mulligan have spoken about the dominance of male film critics. The great thing about YouTube is the viewers get more of a choice to watch diverse voices. I don't know so much about the dominance of male film critics, but I think on YouTube at least you get to hear not only somebody who graduated from film school in film, how's it even called, film criticism, and got a job at Rolling Stone. On YouTube, you can get to speak, you can get to hear the opinion of people with all sorts of different backgrounds, and maybe sometimes even more relatable and less pretentious. I don't know, I've sometimes read some reviews where you could really tell that the person just didn't get the fact that the film wasn't meant to be this huge masterpiece, if that makes any sense. You are such a clickbaiter, accept that, don't cry. Wait, I lost the comment again. You are such a clickbaiter, accept that, don't cry. Well, I never cried about it, but think about this. Say you had to, Justice for All, say that is the username. Say that you had to write an article for a newspaper, and it was your job. Your job is to every day create an article for a newspaper, and you know that your newspaper is going to be in a shop and full of other newspapers, and you have the people shopping just glancing by while they're doing their other shopping, and you know that you have that 0.2 seconds for that person's eye to see your title, because it's not going to be the big one, it might be down on the side. That's how much time you have. What are you going to write on that title? Are you going to write something mediocre, or are you going to write something sensational? Not lying, not writing something that's not in the article itself. Or are you going to write something that's going to catch people's attention? Remember, this is your job and you're getting paid for that, and you need people to capture that attention, and you need to compete. Think about that. That's what clickbait is on YouTube, and it sometimes is exaggerated. There are people who have done videos about story lives where they put the words AIDS or HIV thumbnail, and in reality, then it was because the parent had HIV before conceiving them. That I consider it clickbaiting. Or we got married and there's no marriage, or we got our baby and then it's the book they wrote. We've all done clickbait in the past. I don't think my channel is particularly famous for clickbaiting, but people need to understand that it's like the concept of TikTok. People are scrolling through at the speed of light, and you need to capture their attention for that. I mean, I don't want to open like whatever, like reels or I don't know, but I'm going to do this for the sake of it. This is the speed. This is the speed you're scrolling through. It's not even loading. That's the speed you're scrolling through. You've got to capture their attention. Anyway, check out the YouTube channel Learning from About Movies. Great film channel with a lot of great content. Let me write that down. Next up, stream was froze. Oh no, I didn't notice that. But I think that, pardon my language, but motherfuckers are so thirsty that every time they see a pair of boobs, they go crazy. Like, wow. I know. Can you review Herbie Goes Bananas? I have never seen it. Ma come se inglese? But that doesn't mean I'll never watch it. Sorry, that sounds really rude how I said that. Like, I've never seen it. Sorry about that. Come se inglese? Allora complimenti per la pronuncia italiana, pazzesco. In verità sono metà metà. Sono metà inglese, metà italiana, quindi entrambe. What do you think when people say they prefer documentaries over scripted narratives because they're real and based on real life? I guess they're right, but I don't think I've ever heard somebody say that. I think it's just a different kind of thing. I guess if you're looking for a documentary, it's because you actually want the real thing, if that makes sense. Debbie, quando rapinano le vecchiette loro fanno resistenza, non c'è più rispetto per il lavoro altrui. Ok, ho capito che qua c'è un po' di trollamento. Bullshit, Debbie. Albione can't stole you from us. Hey, Debbie, what is your favorite movie? Is this like old references to like Roman history? Hey, Debbie, what is your favorite movie of 2021 so far? Oh, I'd have to pull up all the movies of 2021. I'm going to do this very quickly because the first thing that came to my mind was Promising Young Woman, but pretty sure that was 2020. 22, let's see, what was there? January, March, White Tiger, Malcolm and Marie, Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, I Care a Lot. I Care a Lot was a good film. Vigilant, Moxie, Coming to America. There are actually not that many, now that I think of it. Oh, Snyder Cut. I don't know, it's probably Minari was a good one. Yes, I'd say Minari. I'd say Minari up until now. Also, the Snyder Cut was a good one, but I would say Minari. Stream is back, yippee. I had no idea I was lagging. I must have been talking about for ages. Ciao Debbie, visto tu... Oh, I missed again the chat. Where is it? Where are we? Stream is back. I just happened. Ciao Debbie, ho visto il tuo video sull'Italia dove tavoli perfetti. Bellissimo video, concordo su tutto. Grazie mille. Stai rispondendo in inglese a una domanda in italiano. Sì, è una decisione che abbiamo sempre preso nelle chat perché tutti quanti capiscono più o meno l'inglese qui, però tanti non se la sentono di scrivere la domanda in inglese, si sentono più a loro agio a scrivere in italiano, quindi al tempo abbiamo deciso che tutti scrivono possono scrivere anche in italiano, però per tutti quanti risponderò in inglese. Adesso ti ho risposto in italiano perché mi sono persa. Andrea was asking why I answer in English to questions in Italian. It's because we've always decided that for the people who don't feel confident enough to write in English, they can. For me, it's fine in Italian, but I will answer in English just because it's easier for everybody to follow. Okay, well, you're right. It's not true. We're all here for your content and opinions. That being said, you're very pretty. I like your glasses. Have you ever been to the West Coast of the United States? Thank you. That makes me feel good about it. I have been to both coasts of the United States. I've stayed most time over on the New York, New Jersey side of the, so that's the East Coast. But I have been to the West Coast. I've been to California. I have been to Hawaii, so very, very west. I have been to Arizona, which isn't really the coast, but it's that side. So yeah, but I have spent most time on the east side. I've been I used to live in New Jersey, just outside of New York. So I've been in various places in New Jersey. I've been to New York in various places. I've been to Boston. So yeah, quite a few places. Connecticut, which I can never manage to pronounce. Do you like historical movies like Gladiator, Braveheart, The Last Samurai? I do, although they're not some of my favorites. I'm a bit spoilt on that, and I know some people really hate me for that. I'm like, why do I keep on losing the chat? Where are you? Let me get back to Asvet, Luciana. Also, Italian YouTuber, Luciana, who I know you should definitely subscribe to. So, from 1 to Jared Leto, how much are you interested in House of Gucci? So, definitely a good solid 10 Jared Leto. You all know my obsession with Jared Leto, and then we've seen these new set photos of him in which he has again completely transformed himself for the role as he always does. And they were filming. I don't know if they're still filming this in Italy, but a lot of people in Italy were excited because they were filming like in Milan and they were filming in Rome, but nobody could go and see them because we're all stuck inside our locked down houses. Being sensational to attract people is fine. You just need to accept you might attract, and the comments they make it because of it. Yeah, I do. Some people don't get that. If you are purposely posting a picture of you in a bikini in which you look hot, you know people are going to comment. That's fine. Mine was more of people who comment like when I post a normal photo. This happened because I posted a photo of me in a mask, so just my face, and people were messaging me saying, "Oh, but where are the photos with your boobs? After all, that's all we care about." Yada yada. Just nah, don't say it. Keep it for yourself. I keep losing the chat. Maybe I'm just so tired. Not of the chat because it's really late here. What's your favorite Wong Kar-wai film? I think it's going to be Chungking Express, just because it was the first one I watched, and I watched it during the lockdown actually, and I just became mesmerized by it. I remember, when you have a good memory of something and you can remember exactly like what you were wearing and everything. So I remember that it was during the first lockdown in Italy. It was the awful lockdown, the one where we weren't even allowed to walk outside or anything. We were for months in our houses. It was awful. So I passed my time like watching lots of films, but I was getting a bit depressed because it was like started to become like sunny and summer outside in Italy, and we were just all here, and just there was all these news about deaths and everything. It was awful. And so I was sitting on my bed over there, and I'd made this like smoothie, stupid like blueberry or whatever thing, and I ended up watching Chungking Express, and I was just completely mind blown by it, and I just fell in love with it, and I can still remember just every single detail. Somebody donated. David, thank you so much. Thanks for putting out great content and talking movies this afternoon. See you next time. Well, thank you so much for following and supporting. Thank you everybody who donated and commented. I always become always red and everything. Let's see. Thank you so much. And I'm just here like I'm not even. I should put an effort on and like proper Twitch streamer, not just slouching over with my back like this. Let me get the comments back. Hello Debbie, ti seguo da un po' di tempo, sei molto brava nel spiegare. Sono curiosa qual è la top 10 dei film preferiti. Allora Luca, I'll answer in English because not long ago, as in just a few days ago, I actually considered making my either top 5 or top 10 films of all time, because over Easter I was speaking with people very close to me, and I realized they didn't know that some specific films were some of my favorites. Like I said, oh, that film is, yeah, it's one of my favorites. And these people who were very close to me were like, really? Like they didn't know it. And so I thought, you know what? I think I should share some, maybe a top 5 or a top 10. I was literally thinking about it just the other day because this happened over Easter. And we were discussing with friends about what our favorite films were, our favorite series. And I know that I got really, I went in had a little moment of crisis because my friend said, oh, and what are your favorite series? And I was like, Stranger Things? I don't know. I had this moment of, I blanked out completely and I had no idea what to answer. Like for films, I always know what to answer. For series, I'm like, Euphoria? Oh, Criminal Minds? But I can never think straight of like 5 top series or something. What do you think about this trailer of Space Jam 2? Personally, I thought it was a bit all over the place. It's kind of a red flag. I don't think it was bad as people were expecting, because people were very put off by the new Lola Bunny, because she wasn't. I don't know if you know this, but Lola Bunny, the sexy bunny from the Space Jam from the 90s. She's been revisited in a less sexy manner, and I think people were put off when they saw the first images of that. But I think the trailer is great for today's generation. Obviously, the older Space Jam was perfect for us. This new digital kind of Space Jam video game edition, if you see what I mean, is great for the kids of nowadays. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. I think they put in a lot of Easter eggs to appease us of the older generation, but I think it's perfect for them. So I keep on losing all the comments. Last question. What do you think of Richard? Please don't ask me to pronounce his surname. I can never do this. I heard he made a nice film called Submarine. Well, I'm going to pick up some of his titles. I have seen Submarine and I like it. Very British movie. But without me doing any embarrassing things, let me see what films. Submarine, yes, very nice. The Lego Movie 2, the second part, very nice. Paddington 2, very nice. Soul, very nice. Okay, I feel like a total idiot for not knowing all of this. Should have known this. But yes, I do like the Lego Movie 2. The first one is nice. Oh, he did The Souvenir. I didn't know that. Or is it? Oh no, he was in Rolls. Aha. I need to know what he directed. I know. So both as a director and as an actor, he's been in quite a. Oh, yeah, now I remember in The Souvenir, he's like the friend of the protagonist when they go to that party. The Souvenir is another A24 film. Oh yeah, I'm remembering all this stuff. Anyway, I'll Councillor Jerry B in Soul. Yeah. Anyway, so sorry for that ignorance on my behalf, but yeah, Submarine is a really good movie. A friend of mine and I had a moment of fangirling a few years back on this film, just because it was the most Tumblr movie you could get at the time, and it's hilarious. It's aesthetically pleasing. It's basically the story of this depressed teenager who falls in love with this other girl, and it's like the family's going through other issues and they all talk in ways in which they shouldn't talk. Like all the conversations they have are really odd, and then there's this moment in which like the dad gives a present to the mum and he's like, oh, it's a kettle, and I don't know. It's a really good movie. Yeah, The Mood for Love is my favorite. Incredible. Yeah, speaking of Wong Kar-wai, yeah, that's also a good film. Do you like so much Rogue One there's ever posted on the door? Yes, it's here. And then you want to know a fun fact? Here, I used to have a Godzilla King of the Monsters poster, but it fell behind there, and there's no way of getting it back out. So it's going to stay down there forever. And I considered moving. The thing is, if I move all of this, everything starts trembling and then stuff will be falling down. Do you see how just this thing fell down before? So I don't know how to get it back out, but I considered doing that for Godzilla versus Kong because it fit perfectly back there. My hand looks like a reptilian hand, actually, like that. Have you seen Lawrence anyway? I saw it yesterday and was impressed when I read that Javier Dolan was only 23. Love it. I have not seen it. Sorry about that. Although I would like you guys to appreciate the fact that compared to many of my older live streams in which I was like, no, sorry, haven't seen it. No, sorry, haven't seen it. I actually have seen some of the stuff. For those who are new to the live streams, every single live stream I used to do, it become a meme that I would literally open up the live stream and I'd be like, let's talk about the films, let's talk about what we've been watching, let's chat about it. And then literally the whole live stream would be like, oh, sorry, I haven't seen this. A bit like now when Richard can never pronounce his name. It's a bit like Joaquin Phoenix and me never managed to pronounce it. But what I would do was sit through the whole live stream like, oh, sorry, I haven't seen it. Oh, sorry, I don't know about that. And people would get really mad at me because I do these live streams. But anyway, no, I'm improving. But this is how I always maintain that we should be true to ourselves. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, oh, yeah, Richard Ayo, I know all about him. No, I need to pull up my information. I can't know everything about everyone. Do you watch Sergio Leone movies? I adore his Dollars trilogy, but his Once Upon a Time trilogy did not work for me. I have a friend who's obsessed with his films and he's always insisting I should watch them, but I'm missing a lot of stuff. I am missing many old films, mostly for the reasons I was explaining earlier about growing up and never watching the big classics, but watching like all the old stuff in the library. Thank you for the answer about Space Jam 2. Is there any way we can visit your MDB? I believe you are using it list. I do not use MDB. Have you covered the movie The Death of Stalin? I haven't. See, now we're entering that. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Do you think we can come back to the cinema only with COVID vaccine? No, I think they'll open them again as soon as the numbers get back to normal, because last year here in Italy, they just opened the cinemas again with limited, numbers and restrictions, and it was fine. I don't know if you heard that, but my my AirPods just suddenly the battery died, and it's just suddenly loudly signaled it in in my ear. So I have no idea if you guys are hearing me now through these. So let me know. Anyway, we went back to the cinema, and it was all absolutely fine, even without the vaccine. Again, it's that thing of not being able to go to church. Of being able to go to church. If you're an 80-plus-year-old person, you can go to church, but don't you dare buy a movie ticket with 1/10 of the people in the room with your mask on, with your temperature measured after you sanitized your hands, and you couldn't book any seats around you. You couldn't eat anything and had to keep your mask on all the way around, all the time. But if you're an 80-plus-year-old person with many pre-existing conditions, feel free to go to mass and shake hands with everybody. So no, I think we can go even before the vaccine. Also, because here in Italy, I have no idea when we're going to get the vaccine. Like us young people, probably next year or something. The kid from Submarine is a director now. I can't remember the title, but it's about a lass with schizophrenia, the girl from Shape of Water. I don't know if he'd become a director. I know he's in quite a few movies. He was in Skins back at the time. I can't remember his name, or I don't know why. I don't know why I'm thinking of Alex Turner, just because he kind of looks like him, and there's from Arctic Monkeys, and the movie has the soundtrack from Alex Turner. He's what's his name? He is. I think I need to start closing this up because my AirPods are dying. Let me see if I can remember his name. Craig Roberts, that's what his name was, who's also in The Fundamentals of Caring. Couldn't think of the name. Thanks for entertaining my questions, Debbie. I've got to make like a fetus and head out. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the questions. Hi, do you like Trainspotting T2? Yes, that means we're sort of getting back to the beginning when we opened with T2, which the book is here, but I can't. I can't manage to get it down. Everything would fall if I get it, but it's there. You can see it in the other regular videos. I do like it, but as I was saying at the beginning of the live stream, it was kind of a fan service. It was just like reoffering the first movie reworked. It was more of just a memory of the original Trainspotting, whereas the book actually has a lot of interesting new content. That being said, it's not awful. I just think it's more of a fan service. Do you have the Lord of the Rings trilogy behind you? Yes, the old VHSs, which fell before actually. I just said they fell. There you go. I'm going to put them down like that. But yes, they're my old VHSs, very old. Let's put them there in a safe way. Okay, a scale from unwatchable to absolutely unwatchable. What do you think of the second Wonder Woman film? I can't answer because I haven't seen it yet. And you know why? Because I was put off because everybody said it was so bad. And I stupidly was like, you know what? I'm just not going to waste my time on it. But I should definitely watch it because I really like the first one. I really, really like the first Wonder Woman film. If I'm not mistaken, I actually put it in my best films of what was it 2017 if I'm not mistaken, or at least I mentioned it in there as a honorable mention or something. Some people really like movies so bad they're good, really cheesy and dumb but fun. Do you feel that way? I used to hate them, but now they are my turn off my brain and relax movies. I love them. A great example of this is White Chicks. White Chicks is the perfect example of the dumb movie, which is incredibly fun. Something you might not be able to do now because a lot of the topics were a bit controversial. It was basically these two black policemen who dressed up as these white girls to go undercover and stuff, whatever. But that's been famous as one of the, I'm going to turn off my brain and watch this movie film. And as I've spoken so much about Twilight, which I love, you all know I have my weird obsession with Twilight. We're not going to cover the last live stream, was half of it dedicated to that. A lot of people, including myself, like Twilight with the knowledge that it's trash. It became on Tumblr the concept of Twilight. We know it's trash, but it's our trash. So those are the kind of movies you just have to accept for what they are. And this is what I was saying when some film critics go for the too pretentious review. Like, you can't take a film like White Chicks and say, oh, it's a bad movie because the cinematography was bad. They never aimed for that. They never aimed for the Oscars. They aimed for that stupid kind of entertainment where you just laugh out loud with your friends. So there's no reason to be embarrassed with silly movies. There's some films which are just meant to be like that, just pure fun entertainment. And I sometimes I feel like I'm going to watch a super introspective film with intriguing cinematography and multiple layers of depth and whatever. Other times I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to watch Mean Girls again tonight. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing embarrassing. Sometimes in the film community, film Twitter, there's this thing about only watching these ever more complicated and ever more pretentious films, because if you don't, you're not worthy enough. You watched a stupid film, then you're stupid. That kind of stuff. So I agree with you. Ciao da Bissona Migliore. Ciao, grazie. Which site do you use then for the list? And can we visit your watch list? Sorry, does this bit be really useful? I don't have a website on which I put a watch list. So many people have said I should use Letterbox. I do have Letterbox. I just never use it. Maybe I should get more into it, because what I'm doing now is I'm screenshotting movies, because I usually get attracted to a movie through like the pictures I see. So I go on Tumblr and I see these pictures from the movie and which really attract me, and then I screenshot them and I keep them for future reference. And then I just delete them off my phone after I've seen them, or on Instagram or on Twitter, I just see these pictures. So what I'm afraid of is that if I like that, because sometimes they like Japanese films, so the title is a bit hard to remember, but what I'll do is if I screenshot it, then I remember the picture. I can see the picture and I know that I was interested in that film because of that. Instead, if I just write the title, I might on thingy on Letterbox, I might not be as any more interested anymore in it, because I might just forget what I was attracted to in it in the first place. For example, a few months back, I watched that Korean film called what was it? Spring, summer, autumn, winter, spring. There was a repetition or something like that. It was a very peculiar, very low-key Korean film. It was very, very little known, and I only found it because somebody had posted this GIF over on Tumblr of it, and it was a very compelling image of this monk with like these letters put over his eyes. And I took a screenshot of that, but I'm pretty sure that if I'd written that title over on thingy, over on Letterbox, I would have completely forgotten what attracted me to it in the first place, and I wouldn't have watched it. But this is me in my ignorance of not knowing how Letterbox works. Maybe there's a way of keeping pictures in it or something. I do have the account. I just never never use it. It's literally all in my phone. Actually, let's have a look. Like, my AirPods are literally dying, so I don't know how longer I'll be able to do this, but let me see. Let me see if I have what I have screenshotted here. There. I have this. It's Irma Vep, apparently it's called. This, I'd never remember that title, but every time I go back on my phone, I see this photo and I remember that attracted me to it. Or this Korean film, or this one with Matthew Gray Gubler. These all see screenshots I made, and I've just never. This film is called The Learning Curve. If I just wrote The Learning Curve, I would have just completely forgotten what it was. 1 hour photo. This is a screenshot from Twitter. I would never remember that. So yeah, I keep all these and then I slowly delete them. And it's nice to, like, for example, yesterday I went through my phone and I deleted some from like 6 months ago. And I had a bit of an emotional moment because I realized how much I didn't know 6 months ago, because then I watched films which I really liked. That there was Promising Young Woman amongst those, which I absolutely love now. And this made me also have this existential crisis of how much more stuff is out there and that I'll never discover and everything. So do you still have a VHS player? Yeah, we do. We have one through in the living room. I like the first one too. I lost just do you like Mr. Nobody? I saw it last week and I liked it a lot. I did. There's actually like an explained video on my channel. It dates like 3 years. Craig Roberts, director of Eternal Beauty. Exactly, that was his name. Yep, Wonder Woman was one of the better movies of 2017. Wonder Woman 84, such a disappointment. Unfortunately, yeah, I mean, not that I've seen it, but I know people have been talking about it very badly. Do we need to know Italian language to watch comedy movies like La Vita Bella? Because some comedy movies depend on dialogue. No, I think you'd be. I'm wondering if these keep. That's why I jumped, because these are dying. I think it would be fine with a Vita Bella. And maybe with a Vita Bella, what you would have to know is a bit of like context about Italian history at the time, about racial laws against Jewish people in Italy, but it's not something that would take more than a 15-minute search just to brush up on the topic, just so you have an idea of what's actually going on. But I don't necessarily think you need to know it. Also, because the language barrier is part of like the joke in the movie, because there's a part in like with the Nazis that speak German, and some of the people don't know German. I won't say it to not spoil it, but I don't think it would be a big problem. I'm a big lover of Asian continent and Asian women. Yeah, so that's reconnecting to all what we were talking about before. There's no pretentious films, only good film and bad film. Tommy Wiseau, probably. Yeah, I don't know. I think people become a little bit pretentious. Like in the film loving community, some people just become snobbish. And this is what, ricollegandoci to what we were talking about in the last live stream, when I was really saying thank you to you guys when we were talking about Twilight, because you know that I like Twilight, but I also like much higher concept films. That doesn't mean that I'm less stupid. It doesn't mean that I don't understand anything about films. I just happen to like Twilight because I was a teenager back at the time, and it just became something I fell in love with, and something I became a fan with. And I know it's trash. I do, but I just enjoy to watch it. And some people won't be seen dead within a 10-mile radius of a Robert Pattinson poster because they're too ashamed that they need to prove that they're these huge film hipster lovers. And instead, I think that in our community that we created of film lovers, there isn't so much this thing. It's more of we know what we love, and we're not ashamed of it. You know, so many times a lot of people sent me messages and said, you know, I really loved such and such movie, and it was so funny, and I liked it because it was mindless. I don't know how to explain it. So yeah. Do you watch extreme cinema movies like which consist excessive violence, torture, and extreme later, like Irreversible, a Serbian film? I've got to go to work. Really enjoy the stream. Have a good rest of the night. Have a nice day at work. Enjoy your day, and thank you so much for following. I haven't actually seen that many extreme violence movies, but I have seen a Serbian film. And the other day, like 2 weeks ago on Instagram, we were talking. I said, what are the most extreme gore kind of films you've seen? And a lot of people sent in their recommendations. And the next one on my watch list is Cannibal Holocaust, because it's a very famous movie, but which I never got around to watching. And I think that if I'm not remembering incorrectly, years ago, people actually thought that it was real what they were filming, or something, something like that. Anyway, so I did watch a Serbian film, and I didn't actually. When I watched it, I didn't. I don't know. I just felt it was just violence for the sake of violence. I know some people say that there was a meaning to it, and people say it was a criticism of society. And I personally think that it was more of, let's just think of what the most gruesome thing we can put in, because a Serbian film is banned in half of the world for a reason. It has. I'm not going to talk about this because my channel would be. We can't talk about anything that basically happens, but think of the worst things you could imagine, the worst sexual stuff you can imagine, in a combination of all different individuals that should never be together in a sexual context. It's basically the story of a porn actor who is giving up the life of pornographic films, and he wants to settle down with his family, and he is offered this like one last job, and so he's like, you know, fuck it, whatever, I'll take it. And he goes off to do it, and they're like, for the next certain X amount of hours, you're going to do everything we tell you to do, and we're just going to keep on filming. You've got to keep on doing it. In the end, you'll get paid this large sum of money. So he's like, you know what, I need the money. I need to get my life back together. I'm going to do it. And so he goes and he does it, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Like, seriously, whatever you can imagine, it just gets worse. And another film that I spoke about in that that series of Instagram stories was the Human Centipede 2, which is worse in my opinion than the Human Centipede 1. And it was one of those films where I struggled to actually look at the scenes. Again, I can't really describe what happens, but basically in the first Human Centipede, this mad scientist comes up with the idea of, he kidnaps people and he does all these experiments, and he forms a human centipede by sewing one person's mouth on the other person's buttocks. And so their digestive tract becomes one. Basically, one person poops, guess where the poop goes, and it keeps on down the line. So he has this sort of like creature crawling around his house. The second movie, which is even gorier, it's the one I struggled watching, basically involves this guy who becomes, it's sort of a meta thing, because it's a story of a guy who watches the first Human Centipede film and becomes obsessed with it, and he decides to recreate his own Human Centipede, but like involving 10 times the amount of people, and the violence is way more excessive. I struggled a lot to watch that, but I don't usually watch that many violent films, but not because I'm put off by them. I'm actually not put off by a lot of stuff. Like even the Serbian film, it was more, I was put off, but it was more of like, did you really have to put that in? Like, it was more of, come on, like, it nearly felt like the director just sat down and thought, guys, what's the most provocative and the most disgusting thing we can put in? Let's just put that in. And can we get worse than that? I think that concept has been brought to a good artistic level with people like Ari Aster. Now, Ari Aster is the director of films like Midsummer, and he did Catching Up with the Johnsons? Meeting Up with the Johnsons, Catching Up with the Johnsons. How's his first film called? Let me just pick it up, because it makes sense, that first one. Sorry, I'm kind of falling asleep because it's so late. The Strange Thing about the Johnsons. So he did Midsummer, Hereditary, and The Strange Thing about the Johnsons. And Ari Aster has this sort of messed up mind, in a good sense, where first of all, he looks like a librarian, this guy, right? And then he comes up with these films that are totally messed up, but in a beautiful context. And I can't explain why, but for example, in Midsummer, there's a scene right at the beginning that you're not expecting, and when you see it, it's totally messed up. Like, I was at the cinema when I saw Midsummer, and literally, this is famous. I always say this because next to me there were these two guys, but they were huge, like huge guys, right? And they were sitting there and they were ready to watch their horror movie, and they had the Coca-Cola in their hand, and they were literally just like, when you like drop your cup, and people were walking out of the cinema. But it's not as bad as a Serbian film, but it's just that Ari Aster will put this scene suddenly when you're not expecting this, and that fucks you up even more. Even Hereditary, I can't say this because it spoils, but you go in thinking you're going to watch a thing, and then he's like, no, this is what you're going to watch. And that just messes you up. And then in The Strange Thing about the Johnsons, you can find this everywhere. It's a short movie he made back at the time. You're watching this regular family film, and then 5 seconds into the film, 30 seconds, you realize that what you're watching is going to be completely different and messed up. And the guy just looks like a librarian. That's the great thing about it. It's not so much of a Serbian movie. Okay, what other SA scene are we going to put in here and now? And what other like more depraved thing? Let's put that in, and then even that and that and that and that. You see what I mean? And this used to happen back at the time with like Marilyn Manson, when at the height of his most